hello, freaks. Let me do these people that are hearing this right now. There they go. That's it. People are waiting. They're like, "What the fuck, dude? It's late." Exactly. That's how it goes, folks. We don't guarantee you we're going to start at a certain time. Just relax. Just leave it on the background. We're trying to get you to take it less seriously. This episode of the Joe Rogan Experience podcast is brought to you by Carbonite.com. Thanksgiving's almost here. It's the busiest travel time of the year. But did you know that about 12,000 laptops are lost every week at U.S. airports? That sucks a fat one. And if you're traveling, make sure your computer is backed up with Carbonite Online Backup. It's nice, it's easy, it's idiot-proof. So that means someone like me can use it. All you need to do is set it up, and Carbonite will automatically back up your important computer files to the cloud and continuously, no matter how many computers your business has or where they're located, or you can do it as an individual. You don't have to be a business to do this. Easy to set up with each computer, and you get peace of mind that your computer files I don't know what that other word was, but computer files is what I meant to say, are always safe. I have Carbonite. We use it here on the podcast to back shit up. It's super easy to do. And if you go to Carbonite.com today, type in the offer code JRE and get a free trial. No credit card required, plus 2 bonus free months with your subscriptions. That's Carbonite.com. Offer code is JRE. It's an excellent service, and it's always smart to be backed up, freaks, just in case. Some important shit.
That laptop shit's real. I know a girl that bought a brand new MacBook. Seriously, the second day she went to go travel and she put it in that thing, the little slot where the magazines are, left it there. Came back like 20 minutes later, it was gone.
Not only that, they never find those things.
Yeah.
Wink, wink.
Yeah. Right.
Winkety, wink, wink. Those fucks. Not all of them, but you know who you are. We're also brought to you by Ting.com. Rogan.ting.com specifically. Ting is a cell phone service that uses a Sprint backbone, but they rent time on it and use their own rules. It's a much more ethical, easy, simple, and fair way of distributing cell phone service. First of all, they have no contracts or early termination fees. If you don't like it anymore, you just get out. And it's Sprint. It's an excellent service. It's not like it's some new startup that doesn't have a lot of towers. They use all Sprint service, but they do it in a different way. They give you credit on unused service. If you use less than you thought you would, Ting drops you down and credits you the difference on your next bill. That's a beautiful thing. I love that. I love that a company says, look, people don't mind paying for stuff. I think everybody's established that capitalism, in its core idea, not as far as like the way our economic system is set up, of course, but the idea of I give you money for something. I work, I get money. Like these ideas are pretty clean as long as there's morality attached to it and ethics attached to it. And businesses can choose to put in termination fees and choose to make you pay more for shit than you have to, or they can choose to fuck you, basically. That's what they're doing. And when a company like Ting comes along that's not trying to fuck you, I like it. Because I think it gives people a better sense of what they're dealing with. It gives you, you feel good about it. You don't feel like you're getting fucked over by some big, giant asshole company that's just sucking money out of the world. And if you have a Sprint iPhone 4 or a Sprint iPhone 4S, you can port them over to Ting right now, along with bringing over the Nexus 5. It's part of their Bring Your Own Device offering. So go to Rogan.ting.com and save $25 off of any of their new groovy phones or service. Rogan.ting.com. We're also brought to you by Onnit.com. That's ONNIT. Makers of Alpha Brain and Monkey Kettlebells. We have all kinds of crazy shit over at Onnit.com. And this Friday is a big, fat, crazy Black Friday sale where shit's going to get popping. It's a very big sale for Onnit every year, and they go crazy with it. There's a lot of serious money to be saved. For instance, I think here let me give you the
people are already
lowdown.
Tinting like lined up for Black Friday at Best Buy.
Yeah, Black Friday is weird. It's a very weird thing. I'm not sure I agree with it. As far as like, I definitely don't agree with like getting in line and waiting in stores because I feel like what is your time worth? Isn't it worth something? It's one thing if you're ordering online, but if you're waiting and then you're there with a bunch of other assholes who are there because it's an event and it becomes a game.
Yeah, and it's not much cheaper. Like if you go to Best Buy, you're going to save an extra $30 than what it would be at Amazon, and then half these companies online you'll have to pay tax, so that $30 you could have just saved with no tax. So.
Yeah, and meanwhile you're going to have to use that money to get your teeth fixed because someone's going to fucking elbow you in the face while you reach for that laptop that they want. People are crazy. But on Amazon.com, I love ordering shit online because you don't have to do. It's like I do like half of my shopping is on Amazon.com.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like it's so easy to order shit online. But the idea of like going to Best Buy, I don't want to do that unless something's wrong. I don't want to go to a place. I don't want to go to Fry's unless something's really wrong. I need some shit right now. Because otherwise, like, fuck going. That's one of the things I love about Stamps.com and those kind of services. Like, I don't want to go anywhere. I don't want to have to go to your place. Why can't we work this out where I do this at home? Anyway, on it, we're offering 25% off of all supplements, 15% off foods, and 10% off fitness and packages, plus an additional 5% of orders over $150 and 10% off of orders over $250. Wow. So for big orders, it's like 35% off supplements and 20% off fitness equipment. It's pretty powerful. It's a serious deal. And on it, if you haven't been there for a while, we have a lot of new shit. We try to carry new things every month that we find that we think are interesting. We just started carrying Defense soap.
Yeah, I need to get that.
So I gotta bring you in some. Remind me on Friday, and I'll bring it in. Yeah. Or I'll bring it tonight, and you can wash your mouth out with soap after you tell your dirty jokes at the ice house. Defense soap is an amazing soap that works. It keeps bacteria off of your body, bad bacteria, but it keeps healthy flora on your skin. It's all natural ingredients like tea tree oil and eucalyptus oil, and it smells good. It's completely organic. It doesn't smell like, like I had. I was at this deer hunting thing this weekend, and they had like regular soap. I washed myself with regular soap once, and then I luckily brought Defense soap with me because some people they have like stinky deodorant soap. So you're basically washing yourself with a ball of like it's cologne.
Yeah,
I mean it's fucking cologne. You can call it deodorant soap all you want. That shit's cologne. You're covering yourself with some shit that doesn't smell like you.
I know. I have Axe body wash, and I have like a one that right now I bought, but I'm not going to throw it away. But it smells like I'm Persian when I wear it. For like the first hour, I smell like I have like really shitty like polo cologne on when I go out.
Yeah, that shit's whack. Axe body. I refuse that stuff just for their goddamn commercials. Like why you treat me like I'm that stupid? I know there's people that are that stupid out there, but reach higher, you bitches. Actually, they probably know their target market because those are the only people dumb enough, excuse me, Brian, pardon me, to order that shit.
I just haven't had, like, I switched to body wash lately, with like the little Woofa or Poofa.
Well, actually, Defense soap sells body wash too.
Did it really?
Yeah, I don't think we have it on Onnit.com yet, but if you go to defensesoap.com, I know they have it because he sent me some before. Yeah, it's great stuff, and it's healthy. There's like a lot of it all came out of wrestling because in wrestling a lot of people get bacterial infections. They get staph infections from their skin from getting scratched on the mats and then dirty mats and also ringworm. Ringworm's pretty common, and a lot of times people wash with antibacterial soap, and that's the wrong approach. When you're doing that, what you're doing is you're killing everything, man. The good stuff too. It's like when you take antibiotics. We have a real problem with overprescribing antibiotics. Antibiotics are very useful, don't get me wrong. I mean, if you've got a staph infection or if you've got fucking Lyme disease or something like that, antibiotics could save your life for sure. It's an amazing invention of fantastic human minds. But the reality is there's other ways to approach it, and the holistic way to approach it is to keep your skin healthy and clean and keep the healthy bacteria that actually fight off bad bacteria. Keep that shit active. That's why I've always preached the benefits of probiotics. I drink kombucha tea every day, and it's I like the taste, but there's these floating pieces of fungus in it that feel like an elephant just jerked off in your soda.
Goobers.
It's like a beery soda-y thing. I remember Marin, Marin, who's Mark Marin is clean and sober, and he had a kombucha, and he's like, he tweeted on Twitter, "Hey, am I drinking fucking beer? Like, what's going on here?" This is before they started taking them out of Whole Foods.
Esther got drunk. Remember, she doesn't drink. She had 2 of them, and she was like blah, 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 like slurring words and everything.
There's less than 1% alcohol.
She said she was. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't buy that. If it's more than 0.5% now, they have to mark it, and it has to be sold as alcohol because they were using bottles apparently that allowed them to continue fermenting. So if they had been on the shelves for a couple of months, they got stronger and stronger and stronger as time went on. Fantastic for your health, though. Amazing for your immune system. It's really some special stuff.
Have you heard about fecal transplants?
Yes.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Putting poop in my butt?
Yeah, they take poop and they put it in your butt or in your colon. Like if you're lacking certain bacterial things that are supposed to live in your gut bacteria, like E. coli, actually.
Intestinal flora.
Yeah, intestinal flora is the nice way of saying it. But it saved people like from serious diseases.
From shit that was, shit.
Shit.
The stuff that was completely uncurable in any other way. It's like, you're fucked unless you squirt this shit up your ass.
I don't know how they do it.
No,
I'm ignorant.
No,
what they
eat
do,
it.
They take a
Psych. It doesn't help anything. I just wanted to film this.
No, it's really simple. They just take some from someone who's got the flora that they want a little bit, put it in the blender or in some hospital thing, mix it up and squirt that right up.
You've heard of the Vice documentary about poop wine? The Chinese, or I think, do it where they make wine out of a kid's poop that's like 7 years old or something like that.
I have heard that, and I've also seen where they boil eggs and pee. Young boys pee, virgin boys pee. They prefer like boys under the age of 11 or something like that. Whoa. Yeah. Okay.
I saw a thing the other day. I don't know if it was Vice, but it was a thing about people going around the streets, take up the manhole cover, and they've got these big, long spoons, and they grab the stuff that's caught in the filter, right, in the strainer, and it's all this, like, fatty, gelatinous, horrible, like, big Luger is basically what it is. And then they take it out to their plant in the countryside, boil it down, and sell it as cooking oil.
Ugh.
And they estimated that 10% of the cooking oil in China contains this stuff.
Oh, my God.
Fuck that.
Yeah, Brian Cowan was telling me that when he was in China, he was with his family, and his mom said that when they were at this restaurant, she noticed that they had pigsties underneath the building.
Right.
And she was trying to figure out what was going on. And Brian was like, "Why are they living under the building?" She goes, "I suspect that they're the sewage system here." And the
heat. It's traditional that they had just the body heat of the animals. In China and other Asian countries, they would typically have them under the house, so it would heat the house in the winter.
Wow.
And sewage. I have shit into the eager face of a pig, now that you mention
How
it.
dare you?
Eager.
Do you know that PETA listens? They're here.
The pig was asking for it, all right?
Oh, Jesus, huh?
No, seriously. This was on a long bus ride in Sumatra, in Indonesia, right? And you get, it's one of these 20-hour bus rides, and you stop, and, all the buses stop in the same place. They got the quick food and the shitters, big, long line of shitters. And I go up, and it's squat toilets, right? And it's just a hole, no plumbing or anything. And I look through the hole, and there are all these pigs down there just looking up with shit all over their faces like,
oh, my
give it to us.
God. Oh, my God. And you just happily shit right in their face.
It was hard to relax, but I had, I was traveling. I had a certain urgency.
What the fuck? Anyway, we don't sell shit or pigs at Onnit.com. But if you use the code name Rogan, you'll save 10% off any and all supplements. And, of course, this week is the big Black Friday sale. And as I described it, 25% off supplements, 15% off foods, 10% off fitness equipment and packages, plus an additional 5% off orders over $150 and 10% off orders over $250. So that's this Friday. We're getting crazy at Onnit.com. Lots of new stuff in it on it as far as products like Digest Tech enzymes and zombie kettlebells to go along with the gorilla and ape kettlebells. Onnit 180, a nutrient-based rejuvenating drink mix designed to help your body recover from jet lag or from getting your freak on. And, of course, Alpha Brain. Use the code name Brogan, save 10%, or go this weekend and save a fuckload more. All right, freaks. Dr. Chris Ryan is here, and let's get this party rolling.
Joe Rogan Podcast, check it out.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Train by day, Joe Rogan Podcast by night, all day.
When a man tells you that he's shit into a pig's mouth, you look at him differently forevermore.
You look at bacon differently.
Well, I want to go hunting pigs. I'm going to do that soon. I think I'm going to go and do that this January.
You ever read Michael Pollan's essay about hunting wild boar
No.
in Sonoma?
No.
It's an excellent essay. I think it might be in The Omnivore's Dilemma, or maybe it was published separately. I don't remember where I came across it.
Sonoma's a big area for them.
Yeah.
Northern California has a huge issue with pigs.
Yeah. Yeah, in Spain. There are wild boars all over the place in Spain.
Did you know that wild pigs and domestic pigs, like wild boars, like those crazy looking evil boars, they're the same animal. The exact same animal. Yeah.
Really? No species difference?
No. According to Steve Rinella, it's the exact same animal. Steve Rinella is, without a doubt, the biggest animal expert that I know. He's the host of Meat Eater, that hunting TV show.
Right.
I just got done hunting with him in Wisconsin for deer, which are fucking everywhere. Oh, my God. You know, people that, like, worry about deer hunters and what deer hunting, like, that's evil, it's cruel. Like, people have no idea how many deer there are. Like, these guys, they're asking to kill deer. Like, they have to make extra days. There's no predators, exactly. There's coyotes, which kill the fawns.
Yeah.
And they kill wounded animals, like if an animal gets wounded. But, man.
Well, I grew up in Pennsylvania where there are no coyotes, right? So there were no predators. There were like 2 mountain lions still in the mountains somewhere. But they're everywhere.
Everywhere.
I mean, I've hit 4 or 5 deer in a car.
Yeah.
And I moved out of there when I was 17, so that's two years of driving.
My folks used to live in Harrisburg.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, mine too.
We couldn't drive at night.
Yeah.
If you drive at night, you better go 10 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Because they were
seriously,
everywhere. They're in their
everywhere.
driveway and, you know.
And they eat your marijuana plants.
How dare those cunts. They eat flowers, too. They love roses.
Yeah.
Wow, I had a crazy dream that I just remembered because of that. That I brought a bunch of roses in for a friend to eat, and he was eating them, telling me how fantastic they were. And I was just taking it for granted that I didn't want to eat these roses at all, but I got them for him. What a strange dream.
Valentine's Day.
But it wasn't like roses like a bouquet with like the leaves and everything. It was like a plate, like almost like a tray that you would get like at Wendy's, you know, like one of those fast food trays, stacked up with roses on it.
You served a man roses.
Yeah. It was like, hey, man, I got you some roses. You could eat these. He's like, you gotta try. They're fantastic. And I remember trying one. I'm like, man, I don't get it.
Sounds like American Beauty.
It's a fucking strange dream, man. And the fact that I just remembered it when you said that.
Yeah.
Like deer eating things.
Let's see what else we'll knock loose.
Yeah, dreams are a motherfucker, man. They're so weird how, like, in the middle of the day, you're like, oh, yeah, that's from my fucking dream. Like, why can't I remember that? What is the mechanism? Have they ever figured that out?
Yeah, there's a chemical that your brain releases that erases memories.
What is it?
As you're waking up. I don't remember the name of the chemical. But there's another one that stops you from moving, right? So you won't hurt yourself. It disconnects your volition from your body. And that's why you have those night terrors, you know, where you're like, you hear someone come in, but you can't move. You ever have those?
No, you think that's what it is, but it's really aliens, bro.
Could be aliens.
It's fucking aliens, all right, man?
What is it with aliens and anal probes?
Well, I think it's bullshit. That's what I think it is. And I think people who are crazy are worried about their ass all the time. Worried someone's going to put something in there.
What's the name of the singer who used to be married to the bike? I'm sorry.
Lance Armstrong?
Lance Armstrong, the singer.
Sheryl Crow?
Sheryl Crow. Sheryl Crow. Do you know this weird Sheryl Crow alien thing?
No.
Okay. I may be the only person in the world who's ever noticed this, but all right, she's got a record that came out, and there are 2 songs on the record. There's one called Maybe Angels. And it's about the lyrics are like, my bags are packed if they ever come for me. You know, I know my sister, she knew Elvis. And so all this kind of like, it's sung from the perspective of someone who's waiting for aliens to come and take her away. Right. And then there's another song on the record called Heaven's Gate, which is, I don't really know what that song's about. Months after this record came out, the Heaven's Gate cult in San Diego all killed themselves because they thought that there were aliens behind the comet, the Hale-Bopp comet, that was coming to take them away.
They all had the same sneakers on. And
yeah, exactly. They were all wearing Nikes, I think, right?
Purple Nikes or something like that.
Yeah. And, you know, one of the people in that sect was the nephew of Lieutenant Uhuru from Star Trek.
Whoa.
It's weird.
Wow.
But anyway, that happened after she released this record. So what? I mean, that's pretty weird. You got a song about aliens coming to take you away, and another song called Heaven's Gate, and then
well, maybe it was about that Warren Beatty movie that was really
terrible.
terrible.
Those were a bomb, yeah.
Maybe she was like a Warren Beatty fan when she was younger or something like that.
I've thought of that as an alternative hypothesis.
Didn't she just have butt cancer too?
Oh,
from a probe?
She did?
Yeah, didn't she just like survive?
Really?
No, she had breast cancer, I believe. I don't think it was butt cancer. Girls don't get butt cancer as much as they get breast cancer. Breasts are apparently very vulnerable to cancer.
Yeah, well, you know why?
Why? No.
Because the cells replicate much more often and much more quickly in breast tissue than in other tissue.
Oh, which makes sense because they have to in order to swell up and morph and become milk bags.
Yeah. Ovaries, too, right? You think about ovaries. They're every month. And I'll
and
tell
ovarian cancer, another very common
right.
cancer.
And it's, I mean, here's another angle on this that I'm working into this book I'm writing. You know, think about how many times a woman menstruated before agriculture.
Ew. I don't want to. Now you made me.
Okay. But how many? So a woman became fertile at 18 or 19 because they had low body fat. So they menstruated later. Whereas now girls are menstruating at 8, 9, 10 years of age. But the sort of typical hunter-gatherer human thing, it starts around 18. They'd be having sex before then, but there was no consequences because they weren't ovulating.
So they got roped into sex. That's the trick.
Well, I don't know about... Well, anyway, so just to follow this line. So they start having sex. They get pregnant. They have a kid. They breastfeed for 2.5, 3 years typically, right? So that's a period of like 4 years when they're not ovulating because women typically don't ovulate when they're breastfeeding, especially if they have low body fat. And then, okay, they start ovulating again. They might ovulate a dozen times. They get pregnant again, another kid, and so on. So you add it all up. You find that a typical human before agriculture, female, ovulated maybe between 50 and 80 or 100 times in her life. You look at it after agriculture, and like now, women ovulate 300-400 times in a lifetime.
Sometimes a day. Some of them seem like they're on the rag all day.
On a weekend.
Their whole life, they're spent bleeding.
So that stresses women's bodies a lot because every time they go through that cycle, as you say, their breasts are swelling, things are changing.
What do they attribute this change in the amount of menstruating women do? Is it just food?
It's higher body fat, which gets them started earlier. But it's also that women aren't having as many kids and they aren't breastfeeding their kids. So a woman in an agricultural society or now could have kids on cow milk immediately. So then she starts cycling again.
What's the numbers on people who breastfeed and people who don't? Almost all my friends whose wives had children, they breastfed.
Yeah, I don't know. And you'd have to also think about how to judge it. You know, how long do they breastfeed?
I know one lady who didn't want to breastfeed because she didn't want her nipples to get ugly.
Yeah, a lot of women.
What's it do? Does it stretch it out or did it?
Didn't do anything to my wives. But to some people's nipples. Well, some people are more susceptible to stretch marks, too. Like, I've met people that had a kid, and it just wrecked their body. I mean, it looks like they were attacked by a bear. You know, like just claw marks all over their stomach. And then you see some girls, they have a baby, and then like 3 weeks later, they look like nothing even happened to them. Like, it doesn't even make any sense. That's genetics. Genetics, they vary substantially when it comes to the elasticity of skin, apparently.
Yeah.
You know, you see that in mixed martial arts. Like, some guys get cut really easy. And it's not just the shape of the bones. That's been argued. That's the shape of the bones around the eyes. There's some people that just have much more tender skin. There's guys like B.J. Penn. B.J. Penn's fought, like, God, I don't know how many times. Champ of 2 weight divisions. I've never seen the guy cut. He never gets cut. He gets beat up. I mean, he's had fucking wars. Eyes swollen. No cuts. It's weird. Some guys, a punch misses them and they cut open. It's a very strange thing. I think it goes that way with vaginas as well. Like some girls' vaginas, they snap back into action. And other ones, it's like you just shot a bowling ball through a chicken. You know, what are you going to do with this? You're going to stitch up the outside and pretend you're not fucking a canyon after that? It's just genetics.
We were talking about Dan Savage earlier. He's gay, right? So he's not real into vaginas. And at one point,
that's what I hear.
He wrote in his column that for him, vaginas look like canned hams that had fallen from the sky and the can split on impact.
How rude.
It did not win him a lot of admiration from the ladies.
It's so silly to say, too. They don't look anything like that. It's a shitty comparison.
Well, what's he know?
Right, but I mean, it doesn't look like a canned ham that fell from the sky at all. No, it looks like a strange gelatinous alien that's trying to steal your sperm. That's what it looks like, the mouth of some strange creature.
Yeah.
It's just some succubus. It's just there to pull genetic material out of your body, which essentially the vagina is, other than being a point of pleasure and a place where you pee.
Looks like your Predator mask.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, that was in my last special.
Yeah.
Where I was talking about my wife saying that uncircumcised dicks are ugly. And I'm like, have you even seen your vagina? Do you know what that thing looks like?
Yeah.
The extra skin on that might be the best looking part of it.
Yeah. Genitalia, it's all in the eye of the beholder, right?
Exactly.
You got to be in the mood.
Especially if you're really wanting it.
Yeah.
That's when it
then
becomes
it
yummy.
looks better, yeah.
That's when it becomes delicious. When you're all excited. So there's many things that have caused people to start menstruating later in life.
Yeah, primarily less breastfeeding, less amount of time, and higher fat diets.
What percentage of women breastfeed?
Yeah, and you're going to want to look on, cross-cultural stuff too.
No, I'm going to go to the first website I find, and I'm going to say it like it's fact, because that's what you do.
That's how it goes.
The CDC, Center for Disease Control, would they know?
Yeah, they'll know about America, sure.
More mothers are breastfeeding, but overall rates are still low. 90% of families exclusively breastfeed for 6 months. Wow.
How many?
90%.
And they're saying that's low?
They're saying that overall the rates are still low is what they're saying in this article. I don't understand that.
That doesn't make sense.
It's on CBS News too. What are you saying, you fucks? Did I read this wrong? Is that possible?
And breastfeeding also relates to what we were talking about earlier with the bacteria and the intestinal fauna and all that. Babies that are born vaginally pick up bacteria, especially skin bacteria, that stays with them for life.
Whoa.
And they found that babies who are born through cesarean don't have that and are more likely as a result to get infections and various fungal infections in their skin.
Sweet, I got pussy bacteria on me.
Yeah, you want to get as much of that as you can. Yeah. And then breastfeeding as well. The first few days of breastfeeding, I think it's called colostrum. There's a substance that comes from the breast that isn't, it's mostly stuff other than milk, really high fat. And
colostrum?
Colostrum, I think that's the word. Yeah.
How dare you just spit that out like you know what you're talking about? You don't even know how to say it.
But I know what it tastes like.
You could order that. You can buy it at Whole Foods from cows.
Really? Oh, from cows?
Yeah. Buy
you
it
don't
all
want
the time.
cow colostrum?
Sure you do. It's healthy. It's rich in human growth hormone or cow growth hormone. It's very similar. So with this, listen to this statistic. This is pretty crazy. They're not saying how many people do it. What they were saying was if 90% did, this is how much lower health risks we would have.
Right.
I can't read and talk at the same time. But infants who are breastfed for the first 6 months have a 72% lower risk of hospitalization for lower respiratory tract infections and a 64% reduced risk for non-specified gastronomical tract infections, 58% risk reduction for the intestinal infection necrotizing enteroculitis in preterm infants, and a 27 to 42% reduction in allergic diseases in breastfed infants. That's amazing. You would be an asshole to not breastfeed your kid if you could, because you're like setting this kid up for like a life of much more likely infections, much more likely allergic reactions. I mean, those are big numbers.
Yeah, and that's just the stuff that happens when it's still a kid. There's evidence that there are lifelong changes in immune response, whether based on whether or not a kid was breastfed.
The World Health Organization recommends that babies should be exclusively breastfed for the first 6 months of life and then receive a combination of breast milk and easily digestible foods through the age of 2. Wow. You should still have breast milk up to the age of 2. Research shows that if 90% of families exclusively breastfed for 6 months, almost 1,000 infant deaths could be prevented annually, and $13 billion would be saved in medical costs each year, according to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Office on Women's Health. That's amazing. I mean, I know there's some issues that some women have. Some women's areolas aren't set up for breastfeeding, and some of that can be helped with pumps too, apparently. And, some people, they just don't have the fucking time, unfortunately.
And also, it's a social thing, In the United States, it's still seen as a shameful, sort of something you should do in the bathroom. There are states where it's illegal to do it in restaurants or in public. there's a lot of bullshit women have to contend with in addition to the biological stuff.
Yeah, doing it in public is a rough one.
In Spain, that's like everywhere. In India, women are breastfeeding.
Yeah,
everywhere.
but those are Spanish tits and Indian tits. No one cares. You know, you got a nice American
care.
corn-fed tit, and you can't just have that out there in the breeze.
I sat next to one on a plane just last week on the way home from Vegas, and the whole time I just had my sunglasses on, staring at her nipple the whole time. It was great.
You're a fucking creep.
Would
You're
you?
the reason why people. No, I wouldn't. I'd be respectful. You're the reason why people are afraid to do that. You fuck.
Wait, was this a corn fed?
That's so
Oh,
stupid,
this was just a
man.
nice fat
Why would
titty.
you do that?
'Cause she was hot.
You're just being an asshole. Okay. Anyway, more than 70% of American women don't follow the new recommendations. So that means that 30% of women breastfeed. That's crazy. This is a more accurate statistic as to how few actually breastfeed. 70% of American women don't exclusively breastfeed their babies for the first 6 months. So they might be mixing formula in with that. I'm not sure how it works. But that's not good.
You ever heard about what Nestle did in Africa?
No.
With the formula, they had a bunch of formula that was it was too old. It was expired. They hired guys to go around Africa wearing like lab coats, looking like doctors, trying to convince women to use this formula because they were just going to throw it away. So they sold it really cheap in Africa. Now these are women who otherwise would breastfeed, which is really good for their kids, right? But because these guys are wearing lab coats and, you know, speaking with authority and all this scientific bullshit, a lot of women, tens of thousands of women, started buying this formula, mix it with the really shitty water that they've got there, and all these babies die all over Africa. Jesus. Nestle got in big. This was like in the 80s or 90s. There was a worldwide boycott of Nestle because of this.
It's corporations. It's the idea that you have to make money for your company, period.
Did you see today with the Supreme Court agreed to hear a case to decide whether or not corporations have religious rights? Right?
What?
They've already determined they have the right of free speech, which is translated into unlimited spending on political parties because that's considered speech, Citizens United. And now today they agreed to hear a case because these companies that are owned by religious, radical, right-wingers don't want to have insurance for their employees that cover birth control. So they say it's their right as a corporation not to do this, even though it's the national law. And the Supreme Court's going to hear the case.
Wow. That's hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, when people talk about Frankenstein, this whole idea, like, or will robots ever take over? It's like, dude, it's done.
Yeah.
Look at a corporation as something we created, legal structure that we created that has already got more power than governments or religions. It's taken over governments. Even if you talk to people, they say, yeah, but there are good people in that company. Sure there are, but the company doesn't give a shit.
Yeah.
Right? Because they'll die and they'll have new people. It's like a structure that has taken control of the planet, and we're just part of the structure. We're like working for this monster.
Yeah, it's all about ones and zeros. And when it comes down to only being responsible for your bottom line and having an obligation to shareholders to increase the money every month, that gets really weird because it is sort of a machine. And it's each person has to go home and say, hey, what can we do? It's business. It's business. It's what we do.
Right.
Like, what do we do? We're plugged into this weird machine.
And what are the machines doing? As best I can tell, their entire purpose is taking part of the earth and turning it into shit. Like destroying everything that's beautiful and digging big holes and turning it all into plastic that then floats in the ocean.
Some, and when you're involved in the manufacturing process, most.
Except for Ting.
Ting is different. They're not really a corporation. It's sort of a company kind of a thing.
I got to say, one of the times I was on your show, you were talking about Ting, and I had an iPhone. I don't know if you remember it. I was like, damn, I would get Ting if I didn't have this fucking iPhone. But I got so tired of bullshit with phone companies, like the hidden charges and the sneaky bullshit. And I really admire this philosophy of like, hey, here it is. You get what you pay for. We're not going to fuck around with you. I ended up selling my iPhone. I got a Samsung just so I could go with Ting.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Which one did you get?
The Galaxy S4.
It's a nice phone.
Yeah, I saw you went with the other one.
I got this bad boy.
That's a monster.
Yeah,
Damn,
this is the Note.
Oh, you got the
fantastic.
Note. I thought you got the...
This is the Note 3.
You had another one a few months ago.
I got an HTC One.
Yeah, that I saw that.
Yeah, this is the shit, though. This is the one I really love.
Still using it a lot?
Oh, yeah. I love the fuck out of that phone.
Does that have the little pen?
Yes, the stylus. I write my comedy notes on it. Like, I don't need to bring a notepad with me anymore because I have an endless supply of pages. And I can file them on the phone. Like, I can shuffle through all my notes. I can put them in folders. It's amazing.
Dude, I got to stop coming on this show. It costs me money every time. I got to buy a new phone. I'm going to have to go buy a note, get a Porsche.
Well, the Galaxy S4 is pretty sweet. You don't really need to get another phone.
It is beautiful. I mean, just the screen, looking at photos, and I don't watch videos and stuff on the phone, but I like looking at the photos. And man, like go back to an iPhone after that, it looks so small. And
the internet is the biggest difference in the experience. I mean, because the note is enormous.
Yeah.
When you're looking at a screen, if you're looking at a photograph on the screen, or if you're looking at a website, I mean, it's goddamn huge. I mean, look how big that is.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is like a tablet. You get an awesome view.
And you know, I carry a purse.
How dare you?
A Merce.
I like it. I wish everybody did.
Yeah, so you got room
back.
for that in there.
Yeah, I put it in my back pocket. It fits easy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's no issue at all. But I'm 100% in favor of the Merce. I think I'm disgusted by the fact that we can't wear a purse. It's rude.
We can. We just have to take back the
it back.
Merce.
Yeah.
I consider it more than a Merce. I consider it my Kwai Chain Kane bag. Remember Kwai Chain Kane?
Yeah, I do.
Kung Fu?
Yeah, he had a bag. That's right.
He
had like a little
really
leather
shoulder
satchel.
bag. Yeah, a little leather thing. He kept his necessaries.
I tried keeping my laptop in one of those because I wanted to look more sophisticated. I feel like I'm in my 40s now. I should probably grow up. It didn't work. I went back to the backpack. Backpack's just more effective.
Wait for your 50s.
I
give up.
I just got this new shirt that it's like a hoodie. I don't have it on right now, but it has like a fanny pack built into it, kind of. So you have your two hands in your pockets, and then there's like this middle like thing that's just like a fanny pack. Yeah, it's a Velcro. You just open it up and it's at the hundreds.
That's like a baby step. That's the gateway drug to fanny packs.
Yeah, and it's cool because I use it like crazy, and it just looks like you have a little stomach of gear.
And some girls like guts. Yeah, you'll find them that way. There's girls out there that have fetishes, just like guys like pretty feet. Some girls like guts.
Really?
Yeah, I've heard.
Not enough of them.
Not enough of them. It's an evolutionary advantage. There's more guts out there, so they start gravitating towards them in order to ensure that their seed gets spread.
Right, and a lot of the guys with the guts have money.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have given up on quality, and they just want to get the job done.
Any port in a storm.
Guts are warm.
Well, physical attributes are not nearly as necessary as they used to be. When our society gets more and more safe, it's less and less a requirement to be physically sound or strong or not look like you're going to keel over in a minute. Now they have life insurance policies. It's actually beneficial if you marry a fat guy with a bad heart.
Exactly.
Hey, ladies.
Keel when you will.
Yeah, if you marry a guy who's got like sleep apnea, he's 100 pounds overweight, and he's also on a gang of pills, like just wait it out. Get a nice life insurance policy. Make sure the medical stuff is all documented.
Yeah.
He's going to kick over eventually. How long can he last? Get him involved in sports. Say, hey, honey, I want you to start losing weight. Let's go scuba diving. Get him involved in some stupid shit that he can't do. That ticker will just give the fuck out. And then you rake it in.
Hang gliding.
It's evolutionary, right? I mean, there's got to be. Gold diggers have to be a part of evolution, right? I mean, it has to be some form of an equation.
Well, is that a serious question?
Not really, but it's like what we were talking about, like corporations being machines.
I did write a book about that, know, so all right.
Gold digging?
Yeah, well, we wrote, in our book, actually, we say Darwin says your mother's a whore. I had business cards that had that quote on the book. Because Darwin's theory is that women traded sexual access for goods and services.
Right.
Right? Gold diggers, essentially. And the sort of mainstream view since Darwin has been that that's women's nature, and that men's nature is to be the provider, and so the women are trying to rope in the best provider and all that. But that we basically call bullshit on that in our book. So
how do you call bullshit on it? What's the...
Well, aside from all the evidence that our ancestors did not evolve in nuclear families, in our bodies and in our, it's 300 pages of evidence. But essentially what we say is, no, women have sex for the same reason men do. It feels good and it's a way to bond with somebody. It's not about getting something from the dude, because when you actually look at hunter-gatherer societies, hunters go out of their way to make sure that nobody knows who killed the animals. Like the hunters will exchange arrows and stuff before they go hunting. The guy who brings the animal back to the village often, generally, is not the one who killed it. There are all these very powerful ways that societies make sure that nobody gets proud and nobody gets too much credit and everything's spread around evenly. It's fierce egalitarianism is what the scientists call it. And it's not because they're noble savages or some shit. It's because that's the best way to mitigate risk in a hunter-gatherer society, right? So like you go hunting today, you get a deer. I didn't get one. I might not get one for a week, right? But you're not going to get one every day. It's sporadic. You come back, you don't have any refrigeration anyway, so it's not like you could keep it all for yourself and your wife and your kids, right? And it mitigates risk. What everybody eats, whether you get it or I get it, we all eat. Plus, we're all really highly interdependent. So the last thing we need is you and me fighting over who's a better hunter and who's fucking whose wife and all this kind of bullshit, because that splits up the group. So what we argue in Sex at Dawn is that human sexuality was actually a way to bond the group together. And people were having sex with different people simultaneously and raising children together. And this obsession with paternity, which is assumed to be part of our DNA, is actually a response to agriculture, which is just 10,000 years ago, which is like 5% or less of our existence as a species.
So it's a response to staying put, which allowed people to make much larger civilizations.
Yeah, in a nutshell. Essentially, it was when people stayed put, they could accumulate resources. Right? Whether it's domesticated animals or land or buildings or wheat or whatever. And so once that happens, then there's a completely different sense of property. Right? Because in a hunter-gatherer society, there's very little property because they're nomadic. So you don't want to carry shit around, right? And whatever there is shared. And when you shift to agriculture, suddenly there's a lot of property and it's not shared. It's hoarded. It's controlled by individual families or people. So that's when paternity becomes a big deal, because you've spent your life accumulating all these resources. You want them to go to your sons, right? And it's also, interestingly, the first time that people really understood that sex caused babies. Because before that, everybody's just having sex and women are having babies. There's no reason to think that sex is causing the babies, right?
Wow.
But then when you've got domesticated animals and you see like, oh, okay, the black bull fucked that white cow and now we got these black and white calves. Oh, right, I get it, right? So you start putting that together when you're living around a lot of domesticated animals and breeding. And so that's when women became the property of men. If you read the Old Testament, it says, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, right?
It's about property.
Yeah. It's not about respecting his marriage. Read it in context. Nor his house, nor his ox, nor his slaves, nor his she-ass, whatever a she-ass is. So it's, keep your hands off your neighbor's stuff, and the wife is just part of his stuff. So that's radically different from the way men and women interacted in hunter-gatherer societies, where women had very high status, equal to or sometimes higher than men's, because the women supplied over half of the calories that people lived on. Right? The gathering is what brought the food in every day. The hunting was an occasional bonus.
So the women were involved in plants and harvesting fruits and vegetables and things along those lines?
Small rodents, yeah. So,
small rodents?
Yeah.
Ladies, take care of the small rodents. We'll go get the elk.
Exactly.
You can't handle anything large. So because they brought in small rodents, they were the kings. That kind of makes sense.
Well, they were like mom, they were there day in, day out. Dad's like, hey, like occasional party. Dad brings home a deer or something. But
wow, that's interesting. How do they know this for sure?
Well, you look at which aspect of it?
The
whole
aspect
story?
of women being, like having
the higher status and all that.
Matriarchal.
In that case, primarily you're looking at anthropological research that's been done by people on hunter-gatherers, right? There's still some hunter-gatherers in the world, and in the 60s and 70s there were a lot more, and a lot of people wrote their research on that. So there's a pretty sizable research on hunter-gatherers. And what you find is universalities. So whether you're talking about Inuits in Greenland or Australian Aboriginal people or Papua New Guinea or the Upper Amazon, you find these similar or universalities among all the different groups. So you say, okay, look, if this is common to all these groups from all over the world, then it is characteristic of hunter-gatherer societies. And we know our ancestors were hunter-gatherers, so therefore we can extrapolate.
Wow, that's interesting. So what about money? How did that factor into it? Because when you started not just accumulating material possessions, but actually start figuring out finances and figuring out money and the monetary compensation for work and things along those lines, like how did that factor into the male-female relationship? Because men physically being stronger were able to do things, being more aggressive, were probably pushier when it comes to acquiring that money, and then they found themselves in an imbalanced position where the men have more financial worth than the woman.
Yeah, and the women generally have zero financial worth. It's not just that the men are, slightly higher. You look at women in societies like early agricultural societies in the Middle East, and as recounted in the Bible and so on, a woman's only access to the things she needs, food, shelter, status, things like that, is through a man. It's through her father and then through her husband.
Well, the Middle East, they take it to the next level. You can't even show your face.
Yeah, well, because you're the property of the man.
Yeah.
He doesn't want that being shown.
You're walking around with a fucking tent over your head every day. So, I mean, that's the biggest, you want to talk about, the weak-ass approach to life. They can't drive. In 2013, Saudi Arabian women are battling to drive. They're risking their lives to drive. They won't let them drive. I mean, it's dude, you guys gotta relax your grip. All you Saudi Arabian men, you're fucking yourself over. Has no one taught you, what having character is? Has no one taught you what being a bitch is? What kind of a man wants to keep his wife from driving and wants her to wear a sleeping bag everywhere she goes? You're fucking ridiculous. The idea is ridiculous. She can't show her face. Like this, he's got to go through life like she's a bank robber? That's so fucking dumb. In 2013, the fact that still exists, I mean, what is that an echo of? What caused all of that? Is it a scarcity thing?
Well, I think it's an echo of these early days when women became the property of men. And honestly, someone I was talking to recently, just at dinner, an American woman said in the 60s, she couldn't open a bank account without her husband or father co-signing the bank account.
Because she was a silly bitch. She's going to go crazy with the money, buy purses.
I don't think
we have no money for baby formula.
I don't think so. Yeah, I mean, it's not that long ago that we're still, fucking women over in lots of ways. But as far as that, the whole Middle Eastern thing, I think that's a reflection of this notion that women are the property of men. Now, why were women the property of men? Partly it's, as you said, questions of upper body strength and the way men organized politically more effectively than women did. And so men took control of a lot of stuff. Also, the need for armies because agricultural societies expand. And that gets us into what we were saying earlier about corporations, right? That's when you get these institutions where growth is a central characteristic of that institution. I think it was Edward Abbey who said growth for its own sake is the ideology of the cancer cell. It's also the ideology of corporations, of agricultural societies. We talk about growth, right? Oh, this year's growth rate is whatever. Everything's always got to be
100,000 new jobs introduced by the president.
Exactly, right. What we need to be, one of the things I'm talking about in this book I'm working on now, it's called Civilized to Death, is the whole idea of progress stops making sense if you're going in the wrong fucking direction. Yeah. If you're going the wrong way, the last thing you want is progress. You want regress. We don't want growth. We gotta contract, get fewer people.
Yeah.
Using fewer resources.
That was a fascinating thing that Terence McKenna once said about a mushroom trip. He asked a mushroom, how could anyone possibly save the path that humans are on? And they said very simply and very easily, each parent, each couple should reproduce once. Two people, they have one kid, everybody relaxes. The resources relax, everything relaxes. There's plenty of fucking people, okay? There is zero worry that people are going to go extinct.
Right.
But then the problem is, how do you go to those people, like those crazy people that were on that TV show that had 19 children? Remember those people? First of all, what is she in labor for, 3 seconds? I mean, what
it's like that Monty Python sketch.
Does he actually have sex with her, or does he just jerk off into the abyss? How are those babies actually fertilized? That woman, how could you tell that woman she can't do that? I mean, I think it's a freak show. I think resources wise, like I have 3 kids. It's hard. It's hard to give them all the time that they deserve. And me and my wife have discussed that when it comes to the possibility of having more children. I said I think we should really concentrate on raising the ones we have. Like they're fun and it's great, and they need a lot of time. Like children need a lot of time, and I enjoy giving them that time. Yeah. But I think that if you have another kid around, everyone gets a little bit less time, and I think in that getting less time, there's some benefits, the independence aspect of it, as long as there's love and there's comfort. But I also think you can teach kids a lot of shit, and you can teach them a lot, especially if you really are into it and you concentrate on it and you read a lot of books on it, which I'm really involved in the idea of raising kids. Like I'm raising little human beings. So the conversations that I have with them are all geared towards that. Like it's geared towards enlightening them as to the world, and it's sort of guiding them as how to treat people, how to be nice to people, how to be nice to your sister, like be nice to people. Don't get angry at things for no reason. Look at it this way instead of that way. And I think that kind, you're going to miss a lot of that when you have 15, 16 kids. You're going to like, you guys just shut the fuck up. Just shut the fuck up. Organize teams. You're responsible for your little brother. You're responsible for her. And that's what those people did. Those people have like every kid has a chore and every kid. That's how you raise zombies. I mean, these kids, they're not going to know what the fuck is going on in the world. Like they're going to need someone to help them. Every day is spent doing tasks. And your life is basically religion, homeschooling, and these tasks. That's those kids. That's the 19 people. What are they, the Duggins? Who is that what they're called?
I think so. Yeah.
See if you can find that. I mean, look, I don't think you can tell those people not to do that. I think this is America.
No, but
America's got its faults, but
think about it. They only neutralize like 8 gay couples.
Neutralize? What do you mean?
Well, I mean, like if they've got 19
people.
kids,
Okay,
you average it out. Like you got 8 gay couples who don't have any kid, and it's like, or adopt a kid, which takes it out of the other pool. And mathematically, you can have outliers like that because there are lots of people like me who don't have kids,
right?
And just I mean, I think the way to do it is to remove the stigma around not having kids and to encourage what Sarah Hurdy calls alloparenting, and this gets back to the whole hunter-gatherer thing. Like kids are raised by everybody.
Yes.
They say, 2 parents are better than 1. Yeah, that's true. But you know what? 5 parents are better than 2.
Right.
Takes pressure off you, right? Because you get frustrated, you get tired, their mother gets tired. And it's enriching for the adult. I love being around kids.
Yeah.
For a couple of hours,
Right. Yeah, no, I know what you're talking
about. I can flee,
We had a party at my house the other day, and there was a gang for Halloween. There was a Halloween party, and there was a gang of kids over. And it was fun. It was fun talking to other people's little kids and, seeing how they're different and how they behave different. They have different ideas about stuff. And, there's nothing wrong with that. This is the family, the 19 folks that live at home together. Nice house, though, for 19. Guy must be making some good bank. Be paying for all those kids. Maybe he just loves to fuck. It's all this religion stuff just to keep them all around. Just loves sending it in. 19 kids seems a little excessive, but again, I don't think
always anal.
Not for really religious people. I think it's in the Bible.
Oh, really?
People pick and choose what they like about the Bible. That's why they get religious tattoos.
Do you ever think that? Were you raised religiously?
21. That's a family of 21.
Yeah, there's this new one called the Bates family.
Oh
I guess,
God, they're taking on the fucking Duggars.
Yeah,
the Bates.
They talk new. They're still growing. Look at that creepy fuck on the left. Yeah, I was raised Catholic. I went to Catholic school.
All right.
And I went only for 1 year. But luckily, my mom and my dad split up when I was about 5 years old. And it's like that old world New Jersey sort of Italian and Irish mix. Everyone was fucking Catholic, and everyone went to Catholic school. But for me, it was very enlightening. Like I gave up on religion when I was 6 years old. I gave up on religion in Catholic school.
Right.
I was like, obviously, this is not real. Like this is very obviously
not
God.
Buying this.
I was like, if there's a God, and I wasn't saying that there was no God, but I was like, this shit is just crazy people. This is just more crazy people that have figured out how to control a bunch of assholes and scare the shit out of them. I could see that as a 6-year-old, that this crazy lady who was teaching this class was just an evil, demented woman. A hateful, horrible woman who had nothing to do with what everybody had told me God was about.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, my parents were raised Catholic in that part of the country. I saw a lot of that. But I was thinking recently, like, you're talking about anal sex and Christians and all that. I wonder if if we're sort of shooting ourselves in the foot, those of us who are trying to, move away from shame and hang-ups and stuff, I wonder if the people with the shame actually have better sex. Because it's intense.
No.
You don't think like a priest fucking a nun out behind the church in the woods knowing God's watching? You don't think that's like a really intense fuck?
No, because I think you're dealing with so much guilt.
That neutralizes.
I hate guilt.
Yeah,
guilt's
useless.
Fucking
You're
gross.
Right.
It's one of the worst feelings you can ever feel. You know, I mean, I think there's reasons for it. It's to guide your behavior in a way that you don't have any guilt. But it's also, you can get fucked over and create associations very early on about things you really shouldn't be guilty about.
Yeah.
Like masturbation.
Right.
Like someone was telling me, hey, you know, man, you should cover your camera on your laptop because there's a camera on the laptop and the fucking NSA can spy in on you. And I'm like, good, they'll catch me beating off.
Right.
That's all you're going to get. What am I? I'm
Right.
not doing anything bad. I'm beating off occasionally.
Yeah.
Am I supposed to be ashamed of that? But for some people, it is a shame. Like,
Sure.
Mr. Ryan, we have photographic evidence of you masturbating. Like, good, release it. Let the internet see.
Yeah.
Release the hounds. Let them know that I'm just like them. This is just my dick, okay? It hurts. I got to get rid of some stuff.
I've often thought like that would be a political campaign. Like the guy who or the woman who says, "All right, I'm running for president, and let's get this out on the table, right here." All right, I tripped a lot in college. I've tried coke. I've tried heroin. I fucked whores. Just get it all out there and see how the country responds to that. You know.
Well, this guy from Toronto is essentially doing that. Rob Ford. You know who Rob Ford is?
Sure, I know.
Rob. What are you pulling up, Brian?
Rob.
NSA spied on porn
Yeah,
habits
I
as a
saw
part
that.
of a plan to discredit radicalizers. Yeah, like if you're in a tranny porn, they shouldn't take you seriously.
Yeah.
Sorry, we're not allowed to say tranny anymore. Tranny's a new transgender porn.
Transgender.
Can't say tranny. They get upset. But cabbies, you can still call cab drivers cabbies. So let's hang on to that while we can. Let's hang on to that before the fucking super sensitive police breaks that down too. They're cab professionals. They're not cabbies, asshole. You cisgendered asshole.
Oh, I get so much of that stuff, man.
Of course you do. There's a
my
lot of
God.
disenfranchised people out there that want to blow a horn at anybody who'll be in earshot.
But it's so frustrating. I just had this today because yesterday I released a podcast episode with a transgender person.
Yes,
right?
Tell me about this.
A wonderful person. I met her at a party, and at first I didn't realize she was transgender.
What's her dick taste like?
Sorry. Coconut. Now that you mention it. Anyway, so I released this thing, and I get an email today from someone I know who's cool, who's smart, and she's like, she's a lesbian, and she's like, well, she was upset because the transgender person dresses like a conventional woman and associates with this sort of conventional vision of womanhood. And so the lesbian is saying she's supporting a paradigm that makes me feel bad, that makes me suffer.
That's hilarious.
It's like, Jesus Christ, the lesbians are fighting with the transgender people. No wonder nothing ever gets better.
Yeah, I had
the assholes stick together.
I had a discussion with this radical feminist woman about the discussion originally started talking about transgenders and about how transgender man is man to woman is a woman now. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting. I'm more than willing to call them a woman. I'm more willing to call them whatever new name they want or whatever they want to be called.
Sure.
It's not my names to me are fucking ridiculous. The idea, I understand that we need them. I can't be like, yeah, I know all you. Why do I have to call you Chris? Why do I have to call him? It's silly.
And they're coming out of the fucking Bible, St. Christopher, St. Joseph, you might as well. They're random.
A lot of them are random.
You might as well call us, by numbers.
But what we were talking about, which got really weird, was we were talking about traditional roles and things that women do that discredit other women. And she was talking about makeup and high heels. And I was like, whoa. Okay, I know for a fact that if you see a transgender man wearing makeup and high heels, you don't have a problem with that at all, do you? And she was like, you're right. And I go, well, what the fuck is that about? I go, if a guy is dressing up like a woman, if he has a sex change, he becomes a woman, you're like, you go, girl. But if a woman wants to wear high heels and let her ass hang out of a skirt, you think that there's something wrong with her.
Right.
I'm like, that's ridiculous.
Right.
I'm like, you're just closed-minded. You're just very rigid in what you expect from other people. And yeah, for sure, there's some women out there that put on a big show to get sexual attention, much like a peacock male spreads his feathers. I mean, they're trying to get attention, and it's effective. I think a lot of the problem that people have with that they don't want to admit, is that it bothers them that people are attracted to that. It bothers them that people are not as attracted to them. You know, there's a lot of ugly women who are mad at pretty women. I mean, it's not fair. Life is not fair. And until they come up with some sort of a genetic remedy, which I believe is within 100 years, they're going to be able to take you and turn you into whatever the fuck you want. If you want to be a unicorn, if you want to be the Hulk, you know, I think they're going to be able to do to your body whatever. I think there's going to be elasticity to our genetics, and the design of the human being will invariably be manipulated. They're going to change it. So you're going to be able to look like a beautiful woman if you want to. And I think when that comes, man, it's going to be a weird time because, first of all, it's only going to be available to the elite at first. There's going to be these glowing, perfect specimens that everyone's going to want to fuck. No one's going to want to fuck a regular person with a mole. You know, oh, she's got fucking weird teeth. You know,
and maybe they'll become exotic.
Or they become exotic. Most likely not, though. Most likely to be like cell phones. Only rich people have them at first. And then within a few decades, everyone's going to have them because it's going to get cheap.
So, I don't wonder how weird it'll be, though, because I think we'll be trained for it by our avatars online. So we'll be accustomed to taking these other forms, you know?
Well, there's that thing, though. I mean, this is the thing about competition. And the thing about it really does boil down to that. People feel like if you're attractive, you're taking something away from them.
Right.
Like, I was at a wedding once.
Yeah.
And there was the bride at the wedding was furious because some other woman that one of the guests had brought in was dressed really sexy, and she had this banging body. And the bride was fucking crying, like that this was her big day, and this fucking bitch came in, and she's wearing this out, and it wasn't anything crazy. It wasn't like she was wearing fishnets and a bra and was like, kapow, why get married? Look at this shit.
This is
out here on the
buddy.
market, fuck face. And you're settling for cold mashed potatoes. You know, and the woman was attractive as well. The bride was attractive too. And they were clearly in love, and it should have been a celebration. It should have been joy. And all she could think of was this bitch was upstaging her. On her fucking day, this bitch was why the fuck did he bring that bitch? You know, why the fuck did she dress that way in my wedding? Apparently, like, no one knew her. She was a guest, you know, a friend of the guest. Fuck. You know, that competition thing is weird because people feel like you're taking something from them. If you have like if you always wanted to play basketball, but you're 5'8", and like me, I'm 5'8", and God, I wish I was as tall as that Mao Ying guy, whatever the fuck his name is. What's his name? The big giant Chinese guy? Yao Ming? Whatever his name is. Shaquille O'Neal. Let's go with Shaq. I did Fear Factor with Shaq, and I stood roughly dick height to him, and it looked like I was his child.
What his dick tastes like?
Didn't taste bad. Didn't taste bad. Tasted like a basketball. A little rubbery.
Basketball.
Little on the rubbery side. Very dark.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you can't get mad at Shaq for being 7 feet tall. Okay? If you want to play basketball, you obviously that's not the hand of cards you're dealt, my friend.
Right. And who gives a shit? Because, I mean, the assumption underlying all these things is zero-sum thinking, right? You know, that you're familiar with that?
Yes, famine thinking.
Right, exactly. And famine thinking came onto the scene after agriculture. Before agriculture, hunter-gatherers, the way anthropologists describe it is there is an assumption of plenitude in hunter-gatherer societies. And in farming societies, and every society since then, there's an assumption of scarcity. It's a completely different way of looking at the world. You also see it we were talking about religion, you see it in agricultural societies. The gods are angry, jealous, temperamental, perverse. The gods in hunter-gatherer societies
gods
are giving. They're not even giving, they're just like a source of richness, right? It's a completely different way of looking at life, the world, each other. It's amazing.
But they never invented shit. They invented sharper arrows and things along those lines. There was no cell phones. If we're all hunter-gatherers, there'd be no internet. There'd be no podcasts right now. You wouldn't be wearing glasses. Shit would be weird. You know, it would be.
I probably wouldn't need glasses.
You would be healthier. Do you think the glasses is chemtrails making your vision go bad?
Yeah, the chemtrails in my eyes.
It's the birth control pills in the water. The World Health Organization works for the New World Order. They the people that lived in these hunter-gatherer societies, though, they were very happy. I don't necessarily want to do what they do, but they were very happy.
Well,
it's
you know,
different...
I mean, this is what this book's about, right?
Sex at Dawn, by the way. People are, what's his fucking book's name?
No, actually, I was thinking of the other one, the one I'm working on now.
Oh, the new book.
It's called Civilized to Death.
Okay.
And it's about the modern world in conflict with our evolved nature.
But get Sex at Dawn now. Read that before the new book comes. When is the new book going to come out?
About a year after I write it.
You haven't even started? How dare you? How dare you come in, mispronounce colostrum, fucking son of a bee. You son of a bee.
I'm busy.
Listen, you are. You are very busy.
Duncan got me into this podcasting shit. You know, I didn't even know what a podcast was when I met Duncan.
Well,
you know, and
I'm glad you did.
It's so much fun. I love it. I wouldn't write books. If I could do this for a living, I would just hang out and talk to cool, interesting people.
It's a more effective way of distributing information, too.
I'm amazed how many people listen. We're getting like 20,000 downloads at this point.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Not Rogan numbers, but...
Well, whatever. I mean, we started out, Brian and I, we got like 100 the first day we did it. Yeah. Like 100 people watching on Ustream. You know?
You guys are doing the video from the get-go.
Yeah, we started doing the video. We're one of the few that doesn't... we don't do any editing of our shows. They air, warts and all. They go out there.
Yeah.
You know, and some people originally the big knock was that was very unprofessional. That we should edit it, but there's a sort of a thrill to it that people know. Like these,
I think people appreciate the authenticity.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like you're here.
And the conversations that we're having, like this conversation with you, you can not just acquire information much more easily than reading, but it also stimulates your desire to acquire new knowledge. You know, in a way that I don't even know if reading does. It's like you get inspired by a variety. It's almost like a magazine. You get inspired by a variety of different ideas, and then you can go pursue those ideas on your own. But they open up doors. And doors to me, too, not just to the listeners. Like, there's a lot of just having these conversations, being able to sit down with a guy like you for 3 hours and just talk. I mean, how would we do that? If we did that normally, if we decided to have dinner together, we would be, what are you going to eat? Oh, the this here is really good.
And we'd be with other people, and they'd be having their thing. And, you know, you're right, it's extremely efficient. I mean, my favorite thing about it is exactly what you said. It gives me a reason to sit down for a while with someone who otherwise might not make time for me, you know, or have time. You know, they've got to think about their effectiveness.
Well, and also the committing to sitting down for like 3 hours, because we're calling it a show, the committing to just sitting here and doing this. You know, it's not like checking your phone or what's on TV? When does this start? Is this season of that in? And, you know, look at this magazine I got. Who took this picture? You know what I mean? All that stuff.
Yeah.
It's like life is a distraction. This is almost like
focus.
Yeah. You're going to lock yourself in, clink across the table in a weird way. We would never really sit. You know, we'd sit on a couch. You'd be over there. I'd be over here. We'd just chatting. You know.
Watching a fucking TV probably.
Most likely.
Would be taking most of our time.
Or there'd be music playing or something. There'd be something going on where you're adding to the distraction of life itself.
Feeding each other flowers.
Feeding roses, feeding you a big fast food tray of roses. What a strange
I think Shaq's
dream.
dick tasted like rose petals.
I would wonder what one of those weirdo dream expert people would how they would decipher that. Like, what would be their
Google it. There's a lot of dream dictionaries online.
Well, you remember Stanley Krippner? He's a dream expert.
Yeah, I don't know what he would say about that. Feeding a man roses
without the thorns. Interesting.
Yeah, it was just petals.
Yeah,
it was just petals. Maybe it's deers, because I know the deer.
So did you bag one?
Yes. Yeah.
Was it buck season? Doe season?
Yeah. Well, it's both.
Oh.
It's kind of a sad story.
Oh, it was fawn season?
No. I didn't shoot one of those. But eating rose petal dream interpretation. Really?
It's on My Islamic Dream.
Oh my God! My Islamic Dream. Please shut this off. Shut this off before we get jihaded.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I had nothing to do with that.
I shot a buck and wounded a doe. I dropped my rifle because I fell, and apparently the scope was off on the rifle, and the animal got wounded in its leg, and we had to follow it, but we couldn't find it. We found a blood trail, and we followed it for several hours the next day, even looking for it. We couldn't find the deer, so it got wounded. It was very, very depressing, very sad, and it was like two extreme opposites. The buck I shot died instantly. It was like I have a large caliber rifle, and one of the
270 Winchester,
300 Win Mag.
300.
And the idea behind it was like I want to make sure that nothing gets wounded. If I want it to be as painless, as quick as possible.
Yeah.
I had my rifle sighted the day before. We went to a range. I shot a gang of rounds. I shot 90 rounds the day before we left, and another 20 the day of. And I've been practicing a lot, so my accuracy is excellent. I was ready to do, and the idea behind it is very simple. I mean, hunting is a very thrilling thing. What I want to do this year, and this is in no judgment of anybody who's not doing it, but I want to be able to know exactly where all my meat comes from. And I want it all to be wild meat. I think it's better for you. I think it's an much more ethical way than factory farming, certainly, and even more than agriculture, because that animal is living its life completely free and wild until the moment you pull that trigger. And so my idea was to get all those ducks in a row, make sure that I'm shooting at an animal that I'm definitely going to hit. The crosshairs are lined up on it perfectly. The fucking scope is off. Scope is off, and the animal got hit in the shoulder. So I went. I wasn't sure if that was what the case was, or if I just missed. You know, there's so much adrenaline going on, and it's so depressing and so sad. So I went to a range, and I went with a marksman too. And one of the guys we were with knows how to sight rifles, and he's like, "Yeah, this is off. This is off quite a bit. It was off by like 6 inches at 100 yards, which is quite a bit. I mean, when you fall, and I was walking around these slippery hills with snow everywhere and logs, and these big stupid moon boots that I was wearing that were they were insulated boots that were good to like 40 below zero, but you can't fucking walk in them. I mean, they're enormous and they're stiff. Their ankles don't bend, so you're like Frankensteining it. Exactly like ski boots.
Horrible.
But they keep your feet warm. But I fell, and huge depressing moment. Very, very sad. I mean, the animal will die, and it's probably dead already. And if not, the coyotes will eat it anyway. It's part of the cycle of life. And they're trying to get rid of as many deer as they can up there. They have a lot of deer, and the deer are damaging a lot of they're trying to replant forests up there, and the deer eat all the saplings. They eat the leaves off the oak trees and things along those lines.
They kill people in auto accidents.
They do, but I was obviously trying not to do that.
Yeah.
I was trying to make sure that it died instantly, like the first one. The buck I shot was dead within seconds. It was boom.
Then did you have it cleaned?
No, I did it. Oh,
you gutted it?
Gutted it, butchered it, everything.
Hung it up on a tree?
It took hours. We did it in a garage. We skinned it and the whole deal, and it took hours to cut it down into portions. But this is the right way to do it. The last time we did it, we sent it to a butcher. I have no idea if that was even my deer that I got back. It tasted delicious. It was awesome, but I didn't see it. I didn't see the whole process, and to me, it's like I was missing a step.
I wonder that when you get the ashes back from someone who's been cremated.
Fuck no.
Like, really?
Yeah.
How do I know what's in here? You know,
it's a stack of newspaper. That's not your grandma.
It's like cocaine, and they just mix it with shit.
Yeah, it's just like they cut it. They cut your grandmother with newspaper.
You might want to check out that book I mentioned earlier, The Omnivore's Dilemma, Michael Pollan, because the idea of that book was just, he said, I want to make one meal where I know where everything came from.
Yeah, well, I'm doing that now. I'm growing vegetables. I ate broccoli from my garden last night.
Yeah,
I have a pretty serious garden now, and it's getting bigger. And I have chickens now. I have 14 chickens, and I just ordered 7 more. I'm getting 7 more.
Where do you order them from?
There's a chicken factory. I don't know. I'll tell you. I'll show you.
Yeah,
you order them online. They send them through the U.S. Postal Service. Actually, they get there next day. Yeah, and they're fine.
What do they call the reds? What do you know what the breed is?
There's a gang of different breeds. We have a bunch of different types of chickens. But
so you're getting eggs from them?
Yeah, I get fresh eggs every day from these chickens. And then on top of that, I'm getting vegetables from the garden. And I'm trying to go, by the end of 2014, my goal is to be all game meat. Because I think if you're going to be a meat eater, and I've been a meat eater my whole life, I want to know where the food comes from, one. I mean, it's great if you can go to a farm that you know the guy's taking care of his cows. Like Doug Duran, the guy whose farm that I hunted on this weekend, he has cows, and he grass feeds them. He even gave me some of his meat, and I was happy to get that. I mean, he gave me a couple of steaks. You know exactly where they came from. I know exactly what he feeds it. He knows exactly what that cow's been through. There's no hormones, no bullshit. They're just cows eating grass.
Right.
This is what it's supposed to be.
Right.
But most of the time, you don't know what that relationship is between the farmer or the butcher or
and you can assume it's bad.
You can
if it's industrial.
certainly if it's factory farmed, and also the fact that most of the steak that we're getting is fed grain.
Yeah.
And those animals are not supposed to be eating corn.
And antibiotics
Yeah.
out the fucking ass.
Because one of the reasons being is because their body doesn't process corn well.
Right.
And so they get all these abscesses and all these issues with their stomachs.
Yeah.
Look, again, I'm not trying to judge. I'm not saying go out and do what I'm doing. But I think knowing what I know about the whole process, seeing documentaries like Food Inc. and just knowing what I know about, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be a vegetarian, but if I had a choice between being a vegetarian and keeping the factory farm system in place the way it is, I'd probably go with being a vegetarian. I would just eat eggs. I would just eat eggs and vegetables and things along those lines. But I like meat. And I think there's a lot of health benefits.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of health benefits to meat. I really do.
Yeah.
I find it delicious. And I've always said this, but it's not like those animals are going to live forever and become magic. I mean, they have a short lifespan. If deer is lucky as fuck, they hit 5 years old.
Yeah.
They have to be lucky as fuck to not get eaten by a predator, hit by a car, shot by a hunter. Yeah. And especially, or froze to death, which is the big issue with deer, especially in non-farmlands. See, in the place where we're at, these deer are fat as fuck because they're grazing on crops. Yeah. They're eating alfalfa. They're eating on these. A lot of these places, they actually grow food plots just for deer because deer hunting. First of all, the opening day is fucking crazy. We were out there. It was like 5:30 in the morning. We were out there an hour before it got light, and you hear as soon as the sun starts cracking, you hear. Boom. Boom.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Boom. It's like you're at a war zone.
Deer Day in Pennsylvania.
Yes.
It was a school holiday.
Yep.
Remember that?
Yep.
I remember seeing people driving home from hunting with like a dead deer strapped to their Pinto.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to be careful first day of deer season.
You do.
A lot of dogs and cows get shot and hunters.
Yes.
So were you wearing like a orange camo?
Yeah. No. Orange. Just bright orange vest.
Yeah.
We were in a blind, sitting there at 0 degrees outside.
Up in a tree.
No. One time I went up in a tree, but it was for a short amount of time. I only hunted up in a tree for about an hour. Most of the time was in a blind that was on the ground. It's intense because it's nothing. You're waiting. You're freezing. I mean, fucking freezing. It's fine if you're walking around. If you're well insulated and you're walking around, it's actually kind of pleasant because you feel warm because your clothes are good. You're wearing wool and down and all these different things. But when you just sit down, nothing fucking keeps you warm.
Right.
You have to tense your body and release and tense your body.
You have
and release.
those chemical bags.
Those help. They keep your feet warm. I didn't figure out those until the second day. Yeah. They made a big difference. And you put them in your gloves. You hold on to these little bags, and they help. But your face is still falling off. You're still sitting there, freezing your dick off. Your nose will not stop running. But it's quiet. Nothing.
And
then
focus.
You hear a snap, and you look over like, oh, shit, there's a deer. Oh, shit, there's a deer. Yeah, it was pretty exciting. It's very exciting. We had to decide whether or not the deer was big enough for me to shoot because this guy is trying to raise large deer on his property. But since they're trying to get rid of as many as possible right now because they're growing, he kind of gave us the green light to shoot a younger deer. So the deer was only like 2 years old. Yeah. They like them to grow like 5 years. They get these big, crazy antlers.
Right.
But their big antlers are cool, but I was doing it for meat. Like, that's what I want to do it for from now on. I want to just try to do that every few months and bring back, 100 pounds of meat or whatever, shoot an elk, shoot a large animal, and just try to live off wild animals.
My wife's from Africa, from Mozambique. I'm leaving in 2 days. We're going to Mozambique. First time ever for me to be in Africa.
Whoa.
But one time she was raised in a rural, her grandmother's house was in a village, African village, and she spent weekends out there all the time. So anyway, one day we're in Amsterdam. We're sitting in Amsterdam. It's a beautiful spring day by a canal, and these little ducks go by. And she's looking at these ducks, like really staring at these ducks. And she's got a weird look on her face. I said, what are you thinking? She said, oh, I was just thinking how much I'd love to kill that duck and rip its guts out and stuff it with garlic and herbs and rosemary. Living my grandmother. And like, my wife grew up like, wringing necks of chickens and ducks and geese. And, like, it's no big deal for her. It's like, whatever, that's what you do. She thinks we're silly. Americans are ridiculous with our disconnect from where things came from.
Well, there's this woman that I know who's raising her son to be a vegan. She wears a leather jacket. She's got leather shoes on, and she eats meat.
Oh, but he's got to be a vegan.
She wants the kid to be a vegan. The kid's fucking 3.
Fucked up.
Yeah, somebody needs to call Child Protective Services.
Well, I mean, I don't know what kind of B12 they're giving the kid. I mean, hopefully they're giving him B12. They say a lot of people that they get their B12 from insects, from just the amount of insects that you eat inadvertently
that are mixed into your
mixing your vegetables.
Oh, not burger.
I started taking B12 every day a couple weeks ago. It's such a great energy boost.
Fuck yeah, it's great for your body too. You know, Shroom Tech Sport, one of its big ingredients besides the cordyceps mushroom is B12. Fantastic for endurance. I mean, they used to give it to us intramuscularly when we were wrestling. If someone was feeling tired or down, they'd give you a shot of B12 because a lot of guys were drained as fuck from losing weight. And they give you a shot
Air Force
of B12.
pilots use that.
Oh
as
yeah.
well?
Yeah. A lot of people. The best way is the shot. There's sublingual. There's actually a good company that makes a spray that you use sublingually that works pretty good, but nothing beats the old injectoroni. Bang! B12 right in your system. That's a big issue with vegans not getting B12 because primarily I think it comes from animals. But they've they actually brought this vegan couple to trial for manslaughter, murder, whatever it was, because their child died from malnutrition because the kid wasn't getting enough B12. Their baby died because they didn't give it the proper vitamins because they insisted on a vegan diet. So in not harming animals, they harmed their child. You know, life eats life. And that's a real issue. Factory farming's evil. I agree. I'm with you. I think, it goes along with the same thing that we were talking about earlier with corporations, being that we lost the script. And humanity is not favored over finances, over ones and zeros. And humanity should be favored above all else. It should be the most important thing.
Corporations should be serving us.
Yes.
How did we end up serving the corporations?
Well, they are us, and they are because it's a game, because it's a cumulative game. You can figure out how to acquire more, and there's clear benefits to being the guy who has the giant mansion who gets driven around in a Rolls Royce. Like he's got a G5, he flies his own jet. There's all those benefits in being that ruthless fuckhead.
But I mean, maybe I'm going to sound like one of these vegans here, but I've known a lot of these guys with the yachts and the mansions, and they're not really happier. They're not actually happier. In fact, a lot of them are much less happy than people suppose. Because when you get that much shit, then your life becomes about your shit.
Yeah.
You got that much money. Where are you going to invest it? People are always trying to get it from you. What is it? Freedom's another word for nothing left to lose, right?
Yeah.
That's a different kind of freedom. But I think there's a middle path. And I think we make a mistake by assuming that people are necessarily going to be happier when they get more.
No, money is one. There's a broad range of needs that a human has. And in this society, you need a little money. Because you need to be able to figure out how to pay for food and shelter. And
the studies do show that happiness goes up from like $7,000 a year to $40,000 a year, and then after $40,000 a year, it tapers off.
Yeah, I was thinking once your needs are met. Once your needs are met, that's not everything after that is not about happiness. Like I was explaining this to a friend of mine that one of the big things that happened to me when I started doing well and I started making enough money. I mean, it was not rich by any stretch of the imagination, but when I first started doing well as a comedian was that I didn't feel worried anymore. Like about where my bills are getting paid. Because every month was like a fucking terrifying struggle to pay for food and pay for gas. And it was always like barely under the wire. I'm paying my rent 3 days late every month. It was because I didn't have it. It was always like that. And once that was alleviated, it was a huge pressure release. That's what makes you happy. When you can go to a restaurant and not worry about what you order, that makes you happy. Right. Everything after that, you get used to. You get used to a big house. It's just as nice to have a small house. Sometimes a small house is better. It's cozier. Everybody's connected. They're all,
That's the thing. The greatest predictor of happiness, once you get past that level of subsistence or, you can take a vacation, you're not worried about paying your bills and all that. The greatest predictor of happiness is community, is sense of community, interconnection with other people. And the shooting ourselves in the foot with the wealth is that one of the things that happens with wealth is that we become isolated and insulated from other people. And what's the difference between comfort and numbness? I used to travel, backpack all over the world. And sometimes I'd meet somebody and they'd be like, you don't know, man, you gotta come with me on my private jet. We stay at the 5-star hotels. those people didn't see anything.
Yeah.
You know, the 5-star hotels are the same wherever you go. You know, like it's different beach out front, but that's it. You're not really meeting any of the local people. Whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, whatever. You know what I'm talking about. There's an isolation that comes with money. And I'm not just talking about wealthy people. I'm talking on a social level as well. Americans are much more isolated socially than Indians or Cubans or Brazilians of lower classes. You know, we pay for the money is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I see that. I mean, it makes sense. And I think that society as a whole gets really weird when you have cities, too. You know, Jim Norton, who's a good buddy of mine, lives in an apartment in New York City. And he lives in a building with probably 1,000 people. I mean, I don't know how many people live in the building. I go, who do you know in that building? And he's like, he goes, I don't know anybody. Yeah. He goes, I say hi to my neighbor every now and then. I've seen him a couple of times. But he goes, but I don't know anybody. So it's even more crazy because unlike a community, like your house is next to your neighbor's house, you see him mowing the lawn, you say hi. So what do you do?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm a printer. Oh, cool. I write books. And you have a little chit chat. Well, hey, if you ever need anything, I'm next door. That doesn't even go on, and there's 1,000 people living in a box stacked on top of each other, and that is the norm. Instead of the village, like one of the things that I found really fascinating about your book was Sex at Dawn, was the way you describe the interconnectedness of these small societies, that the idea of promiscuity that we have today, that's our idea of it is someone going to a bar and picking up a stranger, total random stranger, and having sex with someone all willy-nilly and crazy. Like, that's not what promiscuity originated as. It originated as just having sex with a bunch of different people that were also in the tribe, and it was the norm.
And you knew them.
Yes.
Like you've known them for years.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So we try to make a big point of that so that people wouldn't get confused by our use of the word promiscuity. Because as you say, it means now screwing a stranger, and people don't recognize that in prehistory there really weren't any strangers.
Yeah.
You know? So you're talking about that apartment building and how nobody knows each other. It reminds me of a book I just read recently researching this other one called Paradise Built in Hell. And it's studies of the way people react to disasters. You know, and contemporary mainstream economic theory, which is sort of based on the idea that we're all selfish and trying, you know, self-optimizers, always looking for advantage for ourselves. That's sort of like built into economic theory. Would predict that in disasters that people would be even more like that. You know, they'd be even more protective of their resources. Whereas what actually happens is that in disasters, people start helping each other. Strangers, you know, like those people in that building, that's when they'll meet each other, when there's an earthquake, right? And like, holy shit, did you feel that? Or, you know, Twin Towers, people were so happy after that. And I think that's also why people enjoy, I'm not sure enjoy is the right word, but you ever heard of Sebastian Junger?
Yes.
His book War. Mm-hmm. I saw him being interviewed about that.
He's a CNN correspondent. Is that what he is?
Well, he's a war correspondent, and he was embedded with a Marine platoon in the Korangal Valley for like 6 months in Afghanistan. And this was like they were at the tip of the spear, right, where they were getting attacked every day because they were like in this point in a valley where the Taliban were above them on the mountains shooting down into their base. It was just a horrible thing. So he was there and for 6 months, I think. And he was being interviewed about the book. It's called War. And he said, they said to him, like, so but why did these guys do that? You know, I mean, they don't care about geopolitics. They're not thinking about oil pipelines and Chinese expansion, you know, whatever the guys in the Pentagon are thinking of. Why the hell do they do it? And his answer was love. Right? That's what makes these guys go to war. Love for each other. Mm-hmm. That they have a sense of community when you're under fire, right? Like we talked about a disaster in New York or an earthquake or whatever. But imagine like every damn day is an earthquake and you're with the same dudes every day and you're depending on each other constantly. It creates deep bonds of love that people really miss when they're gone. And I think those are the bonds our ancestors had.
Yeah, there's an intensity to life in those circumstances.
and an immediacy.
Yeah.
You know, because any day, I mean, you were out hunting. When you fell, that gun could have gone off and you could be dead now.
No, I didn't have bullets in the chamber. I'm not retarded.
Okay, well, I'm illustrating a point. A hunter-gatherer is out with his fucking, poison-tipped arrows. If he trips, you
could fall and break your neck.
Or a leopard can kill you, or a snake can get you, or, whatever.
Yeah.
You can. The immediacy of death is, I think, something, it's a tonic. Mm-hmm. It makes life immediate and exciting.
Do you think that maybe that's one of the reasons why people feel so unfulfilled, is that they're not experiencing highs and lows? They're just experiencing a drone, like a daily drone of traffic and a job that's mundane. And is that what causes all this depression?
Yeah, I think so. And suicides and, all sorts of horrible results of this. Is it what I said earlier? What's the difference between comfort and numbness? Right? Comfort is, think about what we associate with comfort. Pillows, blankets, sleeping bags, jackets, cushions, things that stop us from feeling, right? Mm-hmm. That's what comfort is. It's a lack of feeling. It may be a lack of negative feeling, but if you block negative feeling, you're also blocking positive feeling. Antidepressants, they don't just make you stop being depressed. They make you stop feeling. They take the highs and the lows.
They take numbness. They make you numb.
They create numbness, exactly.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that I've talked to that have had them and then gotten off of them. They've just lost time. It's like there was that year meant nothing. There was missing time.
Yeah.
Like that year was just a series of things that went on that I had no emotional connection to whatsoever. And that's the antidote for this crazy society that we live in that's completely unnatural. And this all the reward systems that are set up in our bodies from thousands of years of DNA and learning, all that stuff is just never appeased. There's no real thrills. There's nothing, your real thrill is like going and buying some illegal drug from someone and just closing your door and doing it when no one knows. Fuck you, I'm doing heroin. Those are your...
Yeah, well, and there's a ritual. I mean, a lot of the junkies find the hardest thing about kicking heroin is the loss of ritual. Really? And community. Again,
the junkie community.
The junkie community. You're hanging out with the same people. You've got this thing in common. You've got the ritual, the burning, the measuring, the syringes, the whole shit. Yeah, I mean, I've been interviewing a lot of addiction specialists recently. Did you have Carl Hart on here?
No.
Oh, he's cool. He's a really interesting
Carl
guy.
Hart. What does Carl Hart do? K or C?
C. He's a neurology professor at Columbia University.
H-A or H-E-R?
H-A-R-T.
H-A-R-T.
No, I think I sent you an email about him because he was coming out to do the Bill Maher show like a month ago or something. He's got a book out called High Price. And it's sort of a autobiographical account of him being born in Miami, wrong part of town. He's a black guy, low income. And I don't remember if it's his brother or his, buddies growing up. Most of them are in jail. A lot of he grew up in that like inner city drug scene, right? And through good luck and some people who were impressed by him, he ended up getting a PhD, and now he's a tenured professor at Columbia. But he's a dude from that world, and so he's talking about drugs with a very knowledgeable, realistic understanding of what they are and what kind of people use them and why they use them, And so he argues that, drugs aren't addictive. What's happening is these people are in this absolutely impossible situation. And as you say, they go get the drugs and get behind the door and say, fuck you, because it's like the only escape they've got.
Yeah, they're unfulfilled. The idea of the hunter-gatherer being a fulfilling life, like that lifestyle being a fulfilling life, has really been appealing to me lately. It's one of the reasons why I started this project of 2014 to live off only game meat. Because I started seeing these documentaries, like the Werner Herzog documentary on the taiga, Happy People.
Oh, that's a fantastic film.
Isn't it amazing?
I mean, I love everything Herzog's done.
Yeah.
I've seen all of them. But that's a wonderful one, yeah.
There's a realness to those people.
Yeah.
And then there's also these Alaska shows that I like A Life Below Zero is one of them, was all people that live either below or right above the Arctic Circle, or right below or above the Arctic Circle. Some of them 140 miles above the Arctic Circle. I mean, they're just fucking freezing their ass off, but they're happy. They have a task they do. It's not my life. It's not what I want to do.
Yeah.
They're missing a lot of things that I enjoy, but there's something about this life that they're living that creates these stable, happy people. If you look at reality shows drive me fucking crazy, and I think they should. because there's something about putting people on television for no reason and then following them because they're on television for no reason. Like Keeping Up with the Kardashians. Like the Kardashians are just some normal folks. I'm sure they're no better or no worse than most of our neighbors. But when you're following these unexceptional people that have nothing to contribute, they're not doing anything. They're not releasing songs. They're not writing books. They're not contributing to the cultural awareness. There's nothing going on there. But yet you follow them anyway because they're being broadcast, and it becomes something that you're locked into. But you're dealing with people of an exceptionally low character, either nonsense talking. You listen to the things they care about, the things they say. Like they're essentially children eating the fat of this society. This oozing, big, fat, sloppy society that just lets them pull up to the trough and feed. And because of that, they never are pressured to develop character and true identity and be exceptional people in the way that these hunter-gatherer people are. That I've watched these subsistence shows. You're dealing with these really solid people. They get up, it's fucking 20 below zero out. They have to feed their dogs. They have to pull together these salmon wheels to gather up all these fish so that they can feed their dogs. If they don't get 200 pounds of fish, they're going to have to kill one of their fucking dogs because they can't feed the goddamn thing, so they have to put it out of its misery. And this one guy was talking about how he had to kill all his dogs one year. He had to kill all his fucking dogs because he couldn't feed them. I mean, they're different kinds of people than someone like, I hate red shoes. Why did you give me red shoes? Oh my God, my feet are fat. They're not fat. Shut up. She knows my feet are fat. And then you cut away. And she's always telling me my feet are fat. And then when I say my feet are fat, she's like, no, they're not. Well, make up your mind, bitch. I mean, that kind of nonsense distraction when you come home from a day of work and you're all fucked up on Zoloft and you're just staring at this stupid fucking show. Like, what is that? What is that? I mean, is that like some sort of a way that this machine has of getting us to continue to contribute, continue feeding this machine, continue buying things and becoming a part of this weird process we have where all we do is just create new items and blocks of fucking things and stuff your house filled with shit that you buy, and everything that you buy just continues to contribute to this process of constantly creating new shit.
That's it, man. Keep running on the wheel.
Instead,
all they care about is that the wheel keeps spinning faster and faster if possible. It doesn't matter why, right? I mean, I remember listening to this interview with a football coach a few years ago. It was a great moment. They said, I don't remember who he was, but they said, what's the key to being a great coach? He said, well, you've got to be smart enough to really understand the game, but not smart enough to see how little it all matters. I thought, well, that sums up just about everything, you know? Because if you think about it, you realize, like, this is all bullshit. You know, the entire enterprise of Western civilization is not leading to happiness. It's leading away from happiness. Higher suicide rates, higher depression rates, higher lack of life satisfaction. Plus, we're destroying the fisheries. We're destroying the fucking planet, you know, bit by bit, bigger bits all the time. What is the point of this? You know, and people say, well, but, you know, look at the pyramids. You know, we created the pyramids, we cell phones, blah, blah, blah. But none of that shit matters unless it contributes to human happiness. And it's demonstrable that it doesn't.
Right.
Therefore, I mean, I hear you. You say, well, I'd miss this, I'd miss that. I'd miss a lot of shit, too. There's no doubt about it. In the book, I'm not advocating that we go back to hunter-gatherer societies, although partial steps like what you're doing are great. Not because it's going to save the world, but because it'll enrich your life and your kids' lives. Yeah. But, you know, the whole, like, I'd miss this or that thing is kind of like a non-issue, because if you were raised in that society, then you wouldn't know to miss it, right?
Right.
So it's not about you or me becoming hunter-gatherers. It's about looking at these two approaches to life independently. And saying, okay, the people who are born and raised in those traditions, what's the outcome? Who's happier? Who's better off? Who has greater life satisfaction? Who has better health? Who, you know, look at all these different parameters. There's a great book, Don't Sleep, There Are Snakes. It's about the Pinaha people of the upper Amazon. This missionary went to live with them, and he's the only Westerner who speaks their language. It's a very unusual language, Daniel Everett. And so he went to live with them, learned the language, and eventually they convinced him to adopt their spiritual traditions rather than the other way around. He abandoned the church that I don't remember which church sent him. But he talks a lot about happiness, satisfaction. He says some psychologists came and visited the village when he was there. And these are hunter-gatherer people with very little contact with the outside world. And the psychologist said, man, I've never seen anyone happy this much for this. And he said the way you judge it is you take videos and you look at how much of the time they're laughing or smiling, right? And he said they laugh about everything. Their house falls down, they're laughing. Someone, you're embarrassed, you laugh. Like everything is about laughter. It's a very interesting society, a real look into the mentality of these people. One of the things that's really striking about them is that they don't, we're talking about focus, right? They don't have a sense of future or past that extends beyond beyond the generation of the grandfathers. So when the missionaries showed up and started talking about Jesus, they'd be like, okay, did you know this guy? And he's like, no, this was a long time ago. Did your grandfather know him? No, this was before my grandfather. End of conversation.
They were done.
They're done. That's like, then it's meaningless.
Wow.
There's no connection between you and this story. I don't want to hear about this. Fuck it. They just walk away.
That's intelligent.
Absolutely not interested. Yeah.
I mean, that doesn't, obviously it's nice to have history. We have a lot of it, and you can learn a lot from reading about amazing shit that happened a long time ago that's documentable, but that's pretty funny.
Yeah.
The problem we have is it's so deeply ingrained in our idea, in our idea of culture. It's so deeply ingrained that when you're talking about happiness, that happiness without money, like without success, is like, come on, like we don't buy it. Like if you're talking about like a guy who's got a $500,000 house and he drives a Cadillac and works all day and like, well, listen, we've decided to start a commune and we're gonna be real happy. We're gonna grow our own food. What are you gonna do for money? We're not going to have any money. Get the fuck out of here. Look at this house I got. Look at this car. Come on, I need to pay for gas. Yeah. It costs a lot of money to just the electric bills, $500 a month. People get this idea in their head that what this thing that you're doing, this part of this role that you're playing in this society is the only way to be happy.
It's inevitable. Yeah.
To step outside of that and have like a radical restructuring of what you do is really impossible. You know why? Because you're always going to have to pay taxes on that fucking house. You're always going to have to pay, even if you buy your house, even if you own your land. You don't. Sorry. Every year you have to pay fucking property tax. Period.
In Spain, it doesn't work that way.
Shouldn't work that way.
Yeah, you pay the tax up front when you buy it, and then you're done. That's it. It's yours.
Unless you're talking about gigantic chunks of land, like if someone's got a goddamn huge cattle ranch that's got 3,000 acres, and it means it's obvious like they're using up a lot of resources, a lot of waters, you should probably pay some sort of a tax on that. But if you're just a guy who's got a $150,000, $200,000 house, and you worked your whole life to earn that house, and you bought it and paid for it, you should be fucking done. Just like you're done with your car.
Right.
Or you don't have to keep paying your fucking car every year. You don't have to like, what's your car worth this year? Well, you owe us 10% of that, boy. Like, I paid it already. Like, what are you talking about? I paid sales tax. You guys got a cut when I bought the fucking thing.
Yeah.
Like, why do you keep getting a cut every year? Like, what is this property tax nonsense? It's stupid. It's ridiculous, and it keeps you on the tit. It keeps you on the tit. You can never just go off the grid.
Right.
One of the shows that I watch is a show called Mountain Men. And there's a guy named Eustace Conway, and he lives in North Carolina. And this guy is totally off the tit. All right? All he does is live off the land. He's got a generator that uses the river water. The river water spins this wheel that creates electricity, and that's how he powers his bandsaws. He cuts his own wood, chops. He has like a couple thousand acres out there. And he lives off deer meat that he shoots. He lives off chickens that he raises. I mean, he's off the land, grows his own kale, the whole deal. But his big dilemma, paying his fucking property tax every month. So every year, he's got to figure out how to sell things. He's got to chop wood and sell wood. He's got to do all these different things. When really he paid for all that shit. We should just leave that guy alone.
Right.
He's not hurting anybody by living off the land that he paid for. Like, get the fuck off his back.
Yeah.
But they're always going to do that. They're always going to keep you tied in if they can. If they can figure out a way to keep sucking money out of you. And It's essentially a justification for the incompetent system. The system is so fucking filled with just gross misspending and misappropriation and mismanagement of funds. Just so gross and sloppy and bureaucratic, and they need everybody to be on the tit in order to feed that stupid, inefficient machine.
Hear, hear, man.
Hear, hear.
When you were talking about Alaska, and getting off the grid and all that. I had a transformative experience the first time I went to Alaska. I was in college in New York. I was studying literature. And one of my teachers, who was a visiting professor that I got to be friends with, was the youngest person to ever be a professor at Oxford. He's like a real big shot at Oxford. I mean, since 1261 or something, this guy's the youngest person to ever be a professor there.
Wow. How old was he?
21 when he was a full dawn. Yeah.
Wow.
Anyway, he's a very well-known guy. Indira Gandhi was his godmother. He's written a bunch of books and all this. And he was a friend of mine, and he was I skipped my junior year of college, and so I had one more year of undergraduate, and then I was going to go to Oxford for my PhD, thanks to this guy and his connections. And I was going to study literature there, do a PhD, and by the time I was 30, be teaching somewhere, hopefully have tenure and be all set for life and all that. So I skipped my junior year because I found a loophole in the student handbook where I could scam through, which I've done every school I've ever been in, every job I've ever had, I find some scam, right? So I scammed my way out of junior year, and I said, I'm going to go to Alaska because I want to see the frontier. So I hitchhiked from New York to Alaska. Had all these freaky adventures, as you can imagine, right? Went to prison, got shot at, all this crazy shit happened. And I met people along the way who picked me up, especially in the Yukon and in Alaska, who were so fucking kind.
Yeah.
So competent. They'd take me home. They'd feed me, introduce me to the wife, the kids, or women who'd stop and pick me up, just trusting, hey, whatever, really self-sufficient people. They built their own houses. They had healthy relationships. They knew how to fix their own cars. They were really self-sufficient. None of them knew anything about the fancy schmancy literature and philosophy that I was studying, right? I had, the collected poems of D.H. Lawrence in my backpack, and they'd never heard any of this shit, right? But when I compared them to my professor friends back at school, and I was like, wait a minute, these people don't know any of this, elite knowledge, but they're really happy people. And they're healthy people, and they have good families, and they're decent, and they're kind, and they're generous to me. And then I imagine one of them, stumbles into Princeton, New Jersey, or where I was going to school in upstate New York, and my professor friends, come upon them. They'd laugh at them. They wouldn't help them. They wouldn't be kind to them. They wouldn't. And my professor friends had to call a fucking electrician to change a light bulb, right? So it's well, wait a minute. What do I want to do in this life? Where am I going? So that's when I just said, all right, fuck it, no grad school. And I wrote to the guy sorry, not going to Princeton or Oxford, not going to do any of this. Till I'm 30, I'm not going to make a commitment to anything. No job, no woman, no grad school, no med school, nothing. I'm just going to float around the world and have adventures.
Wow, that's a fucking cool story. I love that idea. That's really cool. I found that I didn't go to the Yukon, but I went to Anchorage.
Recently with Ari, right?
Yeah.
You guys went fishing.
We went fishing.
Were you in
we
the
did a show up there.
Kenai Peninsula? South of Anchorage?
Quite honestly, I don't remember. Yeah. I don't remember what river we were on. I don't remember any of that. I remember we had a great time.
Yeah.
We caught some salmon, and we did a show up there. But I felt that way as well about the people, that there's a self-sufficiency to a lot of the folks that live up there. That, I mean, even in Anchorage, which is a city, it's a real city. They have, hotels and gas stations and the whole deal. Movie theater. We went to the movies there. It was 10 o'clock at night. It was bright out.
Yeah.
It's very weird. It's very weird.
The bars with no windows.
Yeah, you can't. You
That's
can't have
pretty
windows
freaky.
because people are in there drinking. You don't want to see the fucking sun come in your eye and let you know what a loser you are.
Exactly.
Yeah, and people will make better decisions if there's light on them. We don't want that. So.
Do they still have handgun permits where you have to leave your gun at the door when you go into the bar?
Some places.
Like a gun check.
Yeah, you have to check your guns when you come in because everybody's got guns.
Get shit-faced, then you pick up your gun on your way out.
Yeah, that's the best time to get it after you've gotten a bar argument.
Exactly.
But you find people they were very kind and very cool and very competent, as you were saying, and they're just they're people that are also dealing with nature in a way different level.
Yeah.
They're dealing with weather, real weather.
Yeah.
And we don't have to do that. Especially in California, which is the most ridiculous and retarded state in the country as far as the way people behave on the norm. And don't get me wrong, I love it here, and there's a lot of cool people here, and all my best friends are here. But the reality of California is that we don't have to deal with weather at all. The worst thing we have to do is press a button. Oh my God, it's hot. You press a button, it's not hot anymore. I mean, it's really, as long as the power stays on, really not that fucking hard to deal. But if you're living in Alaska, you have to take precautions every year. You have to keep a candle in the back of your car. You have to keep matches. You have to keep blankets with you at all times because your car could break down. You could be at the side of the road. No one could be on the road, and that candle might keep you alive. You have to light that candle in your car with all the doors shut, and that's the only way you're going to stay warm and stay alive. Like there's a lot of that kind of thinking going on there. And then when someone sees you pulled over to the side of the road, they're not like, oh, who's this creepy fuck, in Sherman Oaks that's pulled over to the side of the road with his hazards on. I'm not stopping for this guy.
Right.
They're like, oh, who is this person, this kindred soul out here in the middle of the woods that got fucked, and this could be me.
Yeah,
hey, come on in.
Exactly.
Do you guys have cell phone service? No, if we drive 5 more miles, we get cell phone service.
Yeah.
Hop in the car. I'll take you to where we can call somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's not... But your professor friends, to not pick them up would be right where they live. That's the crazy thing about it. It's like, you're right that the professor probably wouldn't pick up someone who was broken down on the side of the road, but they're right too in not doing that if you live in a city. Because you never know what the fuck you're going to get.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. You got to participate in the world you're born into, whether you agree with it or not. Yeah. But, you're sorry to interrupt you. What you said about California, that also ties to the origins of civilization, actually, in a funny way. One of the leading theories for why Europe became more advanced, used in quotes, right, is because people had to think twice there. They had winter. So when you build a house, it has to be better engineered. The best engineers, the best cars, German, they're not Italian. Because in architecture and all this stuff you see in Europe, the Mediterranean countries are sloppy, right? The houses aren't insulated. They're not, the fittings aren't right. People show up late. The whole mentality is kind of laissez-faire, whatever. Well, that's the weather. It's a reflection of the weather. It's a reflection of the fact that they're not battling weather for their lives.
Right.
So there is a competence and a sort of carefulness and a, checklist. If you're a pilot, you use a checklist, because if you don't, you're a dead pilot, It's like that in northern climates as well. It develops a certain kind of approach to life that's much more competent.
And then on the other hand, you got places like Brazil where the weather's fantastic and the people are laughing and they're on the beach, they're smiling and very friendly and very warm. And that's also because they don't have to deal with any bullshit. They're all wearing flip-flops. I mean, nobody has to worry about nothing. It's no matter what the time of the year is, it never gets cold.
Yeah.
There's people in Rio that are surfing 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They can do whatever they want. There's no sharks down there either. I think that recently someone got bit by a shark in Brazil. It was a really, really rare situation.
Yeah.
So they're surfing in perfect water. It's like bath water. Beautiful waves.
Hot.
Everything's great.
I know you like Werner Herzog.
Yeah.
You ever see a documentary called Bus 107? I think it's called. It's not Werner Herzog, but it's a documentary that will blow your fucking mind. I know you're into Grizzly Man too.
Love it.
Yeah. Oh, the music in Grizzly Man. Oh no, I'm thinking of Into the Wild.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, this film, is it Bus 107?
No.
Is that coming up? It's Bus 1 something. I don't remember which number, but it's a Brazilian documentary and it's available with subtitles. It's about this guy who tries to hijack a bus.
Whoa.
And his idea is just to grab some money and jump off the bus, but there's some cops going by and they stop and the bus gets surrounded, and then suddenly it's it's not at all what he intended. He didn't intend to be on this bus with 30 people holding them all hostage, but now he's there, and then the TV cameras show up and there are helicopters and there are TV crews all around, and it turns into this national day where everyone in Brazil is watching this dude on the bus. Live coverage.
Wow.
It's like the OJ,
Bus 174.
174. A highly recommended documentary for insights into Brazilian life and just something you'll never see. It's like Grizzly Man in the sense that there's a lot of actual footage used in the documentary. So you get the interviews and stuff, but then you've got the footage that the TV crews were taking at the time. There he is. Yeah.
Wow.
It's very intense.
Wow. That's fucked. Okay, I'll check that out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that a certain amount of nature, having to deal with a certain amount of adversity, develops character. It's one of the issues that I have with modern life as far as like people just getting a nice safe job is that you don't really have to deal with too much adversity.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of risk involved, not a lot of fear. And parents like that for their children. They're like, take a safe job, Johnny. You know, you get in the union, you got a good career there.
Good government job.
Yeah, but when you do that, when you reduce those risks, you also reduce the excitement of life. You take away some of the thrill of life. And my whole life, I've been a thrill junkie. You know, in more ways than one. I've avoided the fear, like the drugs and the things that can really fuck up your life. I've avoided all those because I've seen them happen before. But if I didn't avoid them, I for sure would have got hooked on something. You know, I'm a crazy person.
You have an addictive personality?
Fuck yeah, for sure, 100%. Yeah, but I funnel it into being addicted to positive things.
Right.
Like I get addicted to martial arts, or I get addicted to stand-up comedy, or I get addicted to things that I like. But those they're thrills. That's what I'm addicted to. I'm addicted to like martial arts. One of the things about it that was so exciting is regular life became so much more manageable when 4 or 5 days a week I was fighting for my life. It's like there was a reality of a mad scramble with some crazy brown belt who's got a nasty guard, and you guys are doing battle. And he's trying to choke the blood out of your neck. You know, and because of that, everything else I would do would be so much less threatening. Yeah. And so much more in context. It would give it a context, and it would give it a perspective.
And it also cleanses the mind to be terrified.
Yes.
I mean, I rode a motorcycle for 7 years in Spain. I had a BMW.
Oh, my God, in Spain?
I rode it every day, every night.
That's so crazy.
I used it for work.
How many accidents?
You know what? A lot of near misses, some crazy near misses, but I never dropped it.
Whoa, that's amazing.
I've dropped other motorcycles. I almost died on a motorcycle in, I almost died on that one, but that's another story. But the first time I took a bike, a trail bike, I laid it down and slid under a barbed wire fence.
Oh my God.
When I was like 14.
Oh my God, that could have just shredded you.
And then the next time I was in Thailand, I was in Chiang Mai, Thailand, and I rented this Suzuki 185, like a small light bike. And I did like a 6-day trip around the Golden Triangle in northwest Thailand, which borders Burma and Laos. And it's where like 80% of the heroin in the world comes from. It's also where I tried heroin, which was a weird time. But
did you try it injection, or did you try it?
No, I smoked it.
Smoked it.
I met these 2 British guys. Oh, it's such a weird thing, man. I remember exactly when it was because I got up early, like 7 o'clock in the morning, to watch Mike Tyson fight James Bone Crusher Smith.
Oh, I remember that.
So, and it was being shown in this little bar cafe in Chiang Mai near where I was staying. And I got up early because I wanted to see it. And these 2 British dudes and me were the only ones there. So I got to, and they were junkies. And they were like super high class dudes. Like one of them, his uncle was in Parliament, and the other was the son of a very famous writer whose book I had read, actually.
Wow.
I won't say his name, but very well known. He won the Booker Prize and big deal. Anyway, these 2 were junkies, and they were in. So the one dude was in Thailand ostensibly to be an actor in the taping of the filming of Good Morning Vietnam, the Robin Williams film that they were taping at the time in Bangkok. That was the story he gave his parents. Bullshit. He was just getting high all the time. And then his friend was like, I got to go save him. And then so he came, and now he's getting high all the time. And I met the 2 of them at this Mike Tyson fight. And so, and I had always, my thing about drugs is I don't have an addictive personality. I'm too lazy to be addictive, honestly, really. So I do things, I get the thrill out of it. And I try to be careful about it. And, I like to do things in the place that it comes from, right? I've done ayahuasca in Brazil and peyote in Mexico. And so I'm in northern Thailand, in Chiang Mai. It's going to be the cleanest, best quality heroin ever. And I meet these two guys, and they're into it, and they've got all the contacts and all that. And so we got to be friends, and they invited me to get high, and I was like, okay, look, I've never done this before. They, no, we got you, no worries, no. So we're sitting in their room, and we did the Chase the Dragon, where you put the heroin on tin foil, and because the flame can't touch the heroin, it's like.
It'll ruin it?
Yeah, I can't go to prison for saying this, right?
No.
Talking about this.
No,
This
this is
all
all
hearsay.
fiction.
But you know what? Non-Americans, if you admit that you have ever used illegal drugs, they stamp your passport. You're never allowed in the country. I know I have two friends that happened to.
So if you're in another country and you start talking about using drugs, like on another podcast, they can.
Well, I don't know. I don't know about podcasts, but what happened with this friend? She was coming back from Amsterdam. She was a judge in the Cannabis Cup competition. She lives in Vancouver, and she changed planes in Seattle. And they took her and said, so what were you doing in Amsterdam? And she told them, and they said, so have you smoked marijuana? She said, yeah. And they stamped her passport. She's never allowed in the U.S. again.
Wow.
Because she smoked marijuana in Amsterdam.
Wow.
And another guy I know is a psychiatrist, a Canadian psychiatrist who had worked with LSD psychotherapy. And they stopped him at the drive-through border, at Vancouver, and interviewed him. They Wikipedia'd him, and they're like, oh, you did research with LSD. Have you ever used LSD? He said, yeah, stamp.
Wow.
Dude's never allowed in the country.
That's crazy. Is that only America?
As far as I know.
Canada's rough. If you get a drunk driving in America, good luck getting into Canada.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, a lot of fighters have issues getting into Canada for fights. A lot of comedians have issues. A lot of comedians have had issues getting into the Montreal Comedy Festival, which is one of the big events for stand-up comedians.
Because of drunk driving?
Yes, because of drunk driving convictions.
Or any domestic violence or anything like that.
Yeah, Eddie Bravo had an arrest for having a gun on him legally. Okay, he was working for a check cashing place, and he used to have to carry large sums of cash in his car to another location. And so he would leave with the check cashing company, and he had a registered concealed carry permit for a gun. And so he got pulled over for something, and he had to tell the cop officer, I work for a check cashing company. I have a legal registered handgun in my car right now. It's loaded. And then they go, okay, hold on a second. We're going to put you in handcuffs. We're going to run this. So they run it. They go, okay, checks out. They let him go. Because it was not even supposed to be on his record because it was all legal.
Right.
Doesn't matter. Every time he goes to Canada, they sit him down. Tell us about this. You have a gun on side you right now? You take a gun, you should to go for the border? Yeah. No. I was working for a company. I was allowed to have this gun. Like he's got an extra hour every time he goes into Canada.
That happened to me, actually.
Push him in immigration. Going
into Canada.
What'd you get? What was your issue?
Well, they asked me if I'd ever been convicted of a crime, and I said no. And I go sit down, and then they call me over, and they said, the guy's like, you said you'd never been convicted of a crime, correct? I said, yeah. He said, is there anything you'd like to say about Fairbanks, Alaska in 1983? And I was like, yeah, I got busted in Fairbanks, for eating a Snickers bar in a fucking grocery store and not paying for it. But I did 3 days. It was Memorial Day weekend. I did 4 nights in the prison. And then the guy said, 20 hours of community service, and this will disappear from your record. And if you don't get arrested in a year. So I always say no, because I wasn't convicted of anything,
right.
and they said it would be taken from my record. And the guy's like, no, the fact that you were not Alaskan, so you're from out of state, meant they couldn't strike it from your record. So and it's on your FBI record, which is what we get in Canada.
You're
he was
a snicker thief.
Yeah, I'm a snicker thief. So he's a cool guy. I did 4 days in a federal medium security prison with no underwear.
For a Snickers?
For a Snickers bar.
What do you mean with no underwear? Were you wearing anything or just naked?
I was wearing shorts.
Why'd you tell us that?
Yeah, why didn't you have pants at the grocery store?
Why'd you tell us about no underwear?
Because it makes it more harrowing. Come on, man. I was 19 years old. Yeah.
Were you like very twinkish?
I was twinky. I was very twinky, yeah.
So you were worried it was all going to go down.
I mean, I would have been worried if I were wearing, anything,
a fucking
survival
Snickers
suit,
bar?
but
yeah, isn't that under the amount of money that they could even bust you for something?
Maybe
something
not
like
in the
that?
80s. Reagan was in president.
Yeah.
They were trying to fucking be tough on crime.
Right.
Just say no.
Yeah, and also I mean, what happened was we got in from this 10-day hitch with these two guys I'd met on the ferry coming up the Inside Passage. And we had this long hitch through the Yukon Territory, all this crazy shit. And we get to Fairbanks, so the first place we go is the laundromat because we stank, right? We didn't have that special soap. Your
Defense soap.
And so we went to the laundromat. We put everything possible in the washer. So all three of us were wearing shorts with no underwear, boots with no socks, and a jacket with no shirt. And then one of the guys was like, oh, he wanted to go to the grocery store because there was a payphone. He was going to call his girlfriend to let her know that he'd arrived on time. And I was like, fuck it, I'll go over with you. And the other guy's going to stay with the bags, our backpacks and all that shit, and, watch the clothes. So I went with him. Somebody was on the phone. We started pushing a cart around. We were like, Soviet immigrants, like, oh, so many kinds of, food here. Because we'd been living in the woods eating nuts and chocolate and LSD for the last 10 days. And so he opened a thing of kefir. It's the first time I'd ever heard of kefir, which is like liquid yogurt.
Yeah.
And drank that.
Great for your body. Acidophilus.
Oh, yeah.
And I for some reason ate a Snickers bar, even though I'd been eating chocolate. Not much imagination there. And then he used the phone, we ditched the cart, and we left. And so there's some security guy had seen us and turned into a thing. This cop showed up, and I had a knife in my boot and some grass in my pocket, both of which were legal at the time in Alaska. But it was enough to make this cop not like me at all. And he was like this, Napoleonic cop kind of situation. And he didn't like smart-ass college kids from outside coming into Alaska in the summer.
Stealing Snickers bars.
Fucking around, yeah.
Fucking around with kefir.
So he handcuffed us and took us to prison, Fairbanks Correctional Center.
Did you not have the money for the Snickers bar?
Yeah,
or
we had plenty of money.
you just didn't want to pay for it?
But it was like, well, you tell it to the magistrate. Oh, you mean for that? No, that was just like, I don't know what the fuck
You're
that
just
was.
young and
We're
being
just
silly.
dumb and, and maybe there was a line or something. I don't remember. But
Right.
it was like, we pretended we were shopping. So we put like dog food and shit in the cart, and we ate our stuff and put the package like we were going to pay for it when we checked out.
Right.
So I don't know what, we were just being dumb. But so we ended up being taken to this prison. And I had a pipe too, yeah. Because I remember when we did the intake, the guy the prison dude who booked us and did the whole intake thing. I was joking with him. I was like, "Yeah, I'm not going to get that pipe and grass back, am I?" And he was like, "I don't think so, man." I was like, "Well, it wouldn't bother me if it just disappeared and was never even registered because grass is hard to come by in Alaska.
Right.
It was then." And so we sort of had a little understanding, I'm cool, you're cool. Because he was like, what the fuck? A Snickers bar? Why would this guy, what's wrong with that cop? Did you hit him or something? I was like, no, he just had a hair up his ass.
Right.
So this guy was cool. He saved us because what he did was he said, look, I'm not going to put you guys in with the general population. You're going to sleep in the gym at night. You got some cots. You sleep in the gym. You never let the other one out of your sight. The whole time you're here, you go to the bathroom together, you go to the showers together, you watch each other's back, and you'll get through it all right.
Whoa.
And we did. And it was wild. And this was like 83, I guess. And so there's a lot of money in Alaska, right, from all the oil. So the prison was plush. It was like every meal was all you can eat.
Really?
Salad bar, whole wheat rolls, white rolls. Wednesday was prime rib day where the cops could pay $1 to eat with the prisoners.
Really?
Yeah, but the catch was you only had 20 minutes each meal. So I remember one day we're sitting there at this table, and we're 19, maybe 20, something like that. We're sitting at this table, and the guy across the table looked like Charles Bronson. You remember him?
Yep,
the stash and the tats and all that. And we were just like, this dude was shoveling it in, and he looks up at one point and he says, "This is the best fucking prison I've ever been in."
Yikes. He's got a laundry list of prisons that don't meet that criteria.
Didn't meet the standard. Yeah, his story was he found a dude with his wife, and he beat him with a lead pipe, and he didn't know if he was dead. But as soon as it happened, he got in his car. He was from like New Mexico or Arizona. He got in his car and drove to Alaska.
Wow.
Because he knew he'd get picked up, and he wanted to get picked up in Alaska because he'd heard the prisons were much better.
That's hilarious. So he might have beat a guy to death and said the way to deal with this is to go to a place that has awesome prisons. And that place just happens to be on the exact opposite of the continent.
Yeah,
That's fucking far as shit.
It's a long
How long
drive.
does it take to drive to Alaska? Can you actually drive straight to Alaska?
Yeah, the Alcan Highway.
Whoa. What is that like?
It's bumpy. Or at least it was in the
Shitty,
80s.
huh?
Yeah. Because, every winter it gets all torn up.
Yeah, how many lanes is it?
Most of it's 2 lanes.
One on each side?
Yeah.
So you can get stuck behind some asshole that wants to go 40 miles an hour?
Well, there's a lot of passing. I mean, it's a lot of it's just flat and because like the Yukon's tundra,
Right.
it's just like being, it's just flat scrub plants.
I can't imagine someone driving all the way the fuck to Alaska. That just seems insane.
I just drove to L.A. from Vancouver by way of Utah. Just
How long did that take?
10 days.
10
but I mean, we stopped
days.
and went hiking in
Right.
Utah.
Okay.
and
You made
hung
a trip
out.
out of it.
Yeah.
How many hours was it actual driving?
I don't know. It was about 6,000 kilometers, I think, which is around 4,000 miles, something like that, 3,800.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
I think it's 2.2 per.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2.2 kilometers per mile. Something along those lines. 100 kilometers is 60 miles.
Is that what it is?
Something along yeah. Like 60 miles an hour is 100 kilometers. 62, I think 62 miles an hour.
Yeah.
That's
Utah's great.
Yeah, Utah is amazing. It's so beautiful, man.
Moab.
Oh,
Yeah, we were in Moab, and then I'd been wanting to go to Moab since the early 80s because I'd read this book called Desert Solitaire by Edward Abbey. You ever read that book?
No.
Oh, it's a great book. Essays about the desert. Edward Abbey was like a redneck philosopher hippie. I mean, he just integrated these he was like who's the singer? Willie Nelson. He was like a Willie Nelson kind of author, you know? Like a country guy. He's from Pennsylvania originally, but he moved out west in the 60s and got a job as a fire lookout in Arches National Monument or one of those parks, or maybe it was Canyonlands right there. And spent the summer by himself in this house, just with this incredible view, looking for lightning strikes. And he wrote essays, and the book became this cult word of mouth classic. It's probably sold 1 million copies by now.
wow.
It's a great book. So I'd wanted to go there since I read that book in the early 80s, and this was the first chance I got. And man, it's amazing. So nice.
I have a good buddy who was living outside of Salt Lake for a while, and then he had to move to Arizona, and he fucking hates it. He had to move there for work, but he just ranted and raved about how great Utah was. And then I went up there this winter to go skiing for the first time. I suck at skiing. That's beside the point. It's so beautiful up there. So goddamn gorgeous.
Yeah.
Rolling hills. And then we were there this summer. We went there the winter to ski, and then I was there this summer filming the TV show, the sci-fi show. One of the things we did was in Utah, and everything was fucking green and gorgeous, and you just get to see what it looks like when it's not covered in snow. It's like, oh my God, this is paradise.
Go to the Red Rock country.
Yeah.
Down Moab. The arches.
Yeah.
It's just phenomenally beautiful.
There's still some sweet spots in this country.
Yeah,
For
I
now.
mean the thing for me, I shit on America a lot. Anyone who follows my Twitter feed sees me bitching about America constantly. But the thing America's got that Europe doesn't have is just incredible natural beauty and large scale. It's not some little park,
Like the Grand Canyon, Yosemite.
Yeah, I mean, but they're just massive
Niagara Falls,
chunks of
yeah.
amazing. All these parks around Moab are amazing. Alaska, the whole fucking state is just
Everything's
off the
amazing.
charts, man. Yeah, really nice.
We were in Seattle for the sci-fi show, and Duncan and I went to Mount Rainier.
Yeah,
And we drove. By the way, it's only like 50 miles outside of Seattle,
and
you're in the mountains.
And from Seattle,
Yeah.
it's like a cloud. It's massive,
Massive
it's
and
beautiful.
gorgeous, and just it sort of highlights that city. I think it's one of
Yeah.
the reasons why that city's so cool. It's
Yeah.
got the ocean there to keep you humble, and then it's got this massive mountain. It's like, listen, bitch, you ain't shit. Relax.
Yeah,
But when we drove up there, I mean, Duncan and I just could not stop, like, rolling down the window and just sticking our heads out and go, God, is this real? It's so gorgeous.
Yeah.
Just deep, rich green with, like, low clouds everywhere because, you're pretty high altitude up there in the mountains. And it's just the fog and the clouds and the trees, and it's just so alive in the air. You feel like you could eat it.
Is that when you were
clean.
squatching?
We were squatching. Yes, it's a technical term. I'm glad you used that. It's like
I follow your movements.
yeah, people who are not squatch enthusiasts don't they don't know the right terms. They might say you're out bigfooting. That's not correct.
No.
We were squatching.
No, bigfooting, that's snowshoeing.
Yeah,
Might
did you
be
see?
out wasting your time.
Hey, easy. Well, one of the things that the guy said that we went squatching with, this guy Steve, very very cool guy. The both guys we went with were very very nice guys.
They
They
seem
took us up
cool,
there.
actually, in the show. Yeah,
Very very cool
seem
guys.
pretty chill.
Yeah, and well, one of the things that they said was like, look, man, even if there's no Bigfoot, we're still out here camping.
Yeah,
We're having a good time. It's beautiful woods that we're in, and like I like that attitude.
well, that's what people say about fishing. You
Yes,
know,
yes.
and hunting as well.
Yes.
Although it sounds like your trip wasn't as enjoyable sitting in a freezer, but
It was enjoyable still. I liked it.
Yeah.
I like suffering a little bit. I
it's an
think it's
excuse
important.
to get the fuck out in the woods, you know, and hang
Yeah.
out with your buddies and have a good time.
The guy who owned the land, his name is Doug. He took me to this one spot. We went hunting, and I went up in the tree stand. And he likes to do a lot of his hunting walking around. And so he said, "Let's split up for a little bit. I'll go this way. You sit in the tree stand, and maybe if me walking around, sometimes it'll scare a deer towards you." And when I was sitting there, it was just me alone for like an hour, and there wasn't a single sound. Every now and then, I'd hear like a little squirrel chip. But there was no TV cameras this time. We had basically finished filming what we needed to film for the show. So just me sitting up there in the stand, like looking around, waiting for a deer to show up, but just soaking in the beauty of the woods. And it's the driftless area of Wisconsin, which means it's the area that the glaciers didn't flatten out. So it's all hilly and gorgeous and woodsy everywhere, and just creeks, and it's just, god damn it, it's fucking beautiful. Just fucking beautiful and quiet and peaceful. And I felt like just sitting there for an hour did me good. Just like it cleaned me out somehow. Like it cleaned my spirit,
Yeah, you mentioned weather earlier, and we were talking about the cleanliness of fear.
Yeah.
And there's something about weather that I find deeply relaxing.
Yes.
Like a storm,
Yeah.
a tropical storm, a hurricane. I'm like one of those guys. I would tie myself to a tree and just like watch the hurricane come through.
Well, you can't do that. Then you get hit in the face by a car.
That's the downside. Yeah.
You're like tied. A fucking
Tied
tree
to the
comes by and
mast.
takes your head off. You shouldn't do
You
that.
can't duck. Yeah.
But I agree with you though. Like as long as I know it's not life threatening, a good thunder shower is beautiful.
Well, even if it is life threatening, I mean that's even more cleansing because it's good to be fucking terrified.
A little bit.
It's good to. I mean, for me, anything that reminds me of how insignificant I am is really liberating.
Yeah.
And the problem is when I get caught up in my ego and the whatever the bullshit is that I need to deal with and blah 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 blah.
Right.
And I forget how it's like the football coach who isn't smart enough to know how little it all matters.
Yes.
It's like I never want to forget how little it all matters.
I
Because
agree
then
with you.
then you're screwed.
I agree with you 100%. I think it's really important. I think as we were saying about weather, that dealing with weather is important too. Just to know that you're humbled by nature upon occasion. It's one of the things I like about when it rains in L.A. and everybody has to go, oh, okay, yeah, this could happen too.
Yeah.
There's people that complain about it, but I love the fact that they're introduced to the reality of the fact that you're living on a planet with an ecosystem, and it's variable. It's very variable.
Right. Yeah. Something that cuts through your. I mean, I used to love it when the lights.
Your apathy.
And your. The infrastructure your complacency, exactly. I mean, one of the cool things, and I've lived in India for months at a stretch, and one of the cool things there is that electricity would go out like constantly,
That's so cool.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
No, it is cool.
Fucking terrible. That sucks. Your food goes bad. While they're all covered in flies. That place sucks. keep me from going there, please. No,
you never been to India?
No.
Oh,
no,
dude,
no.
you gotta hit India.
I don't though. That's what's interesting.
don't? You
I don't.
don't? No.
I don't.
I don't even like Indian
I mean,
food.
I love Indian
Do you?
food. I fucking love it. Yeah. There's a dish named after me. Lamb Rogan Josh.
Oh,
It's not named after me. It just happens to have
Wait
my
a
name
minute, I
in it.
had that last night.
It's delicious.
And someone last night told me that story, showed me that recipe in her cookbook, and said that it's something about the person who named it got you confused with Seth Rogen or something, or Josh somebody.
No, it's an old
Josh
dish.
Grogan.
Is it an old dish?
Yes. No.
Well, then
it's
what the
probably-
hell was that bullshit story that she was
person's
telling
fucking
me?
retarded. Oh my god, you're hanging out with a monkey. That dish has been around forever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's find out how long Lamb Rogan Josh has
It reminds
been
me.
around.
I was hanging with this really sweet woman in Vancouver one night, and Lay Lady Lay came on, and she said, "Do you know Dylan wrote that song for his dog?"
What?
I said, what? And she said, yeah, his dog's name was Lady, and he wrote the song for the dog.
Okay, this
you
is
know, her ex-boyfriend had told her that.
This is from Persia. It's one of the signature recipes of Kashmiri cuisine. Rogan means clarified butter or fat in Persian, while Josh means heat, hot, boiling, or passionate. Rogan Josh thus means cooked in oil at intense heat. Another interpretation of the name Rogan Josh is derived from the word Rogan, meaning red color. The same Indo-European root that is the source of the French rogue and the Spanish rojo, and Josh meaning passion or heat. So there you go. So this is old shit, man. This is like...
It's not named after you.
No. She's an asshole. She should do a Google search before she fucking spreads her nonsense. It's not me or that beautiful Seth Rogen fellow. Which, by the way, I watched his last movie. This Is the End.
I just watched it.
Yeah.
Holy shit, is that funny?
It is
Great,
funny.
man.
There
Michael
are some-
Cera.
There are some fucking funny moments in that movie.
Yeah.
But God, how good is Craig Robinson in that
Oh,
movie?
Craig Robinson. Michael Cera was my favorite. The coke
Oh.
guy that is addicted to coke.
Oh, he was
Gets
great, too.
his
Everybody
ass
The
was
beat.
double blowjob in the bathroom.
How about Kenny Powers?
Oh, he's
How
great,
about
too.
Kenny Powers?
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's a fucking amazing
Scary
movie.
also.
And they're-
Scary, yeah, but fun,
And
man.
they're all just taking the piss out of themselves.
Yes,
That's what I love
yes,
about it.
yes.
You know, they're all like,
I love how Craig Robinson has a towel everywhere he goes. He
know.
sweats so much, which is so true about Craig in real life. You know, he's always got a towel on stage with him. Oh, that was really funny movie, man.
that was a good movie.
Did I ever tell you there's this one video of like a fight that broke out in like a gymnasium, and everyone used to have towels more back then, because like with the towel thing's kind of new. Like in the last 10 years, like rappers started having towels all the time and stuff. And
The towel thing is new.
yeah, like where they just carry around a towel all the time.
know
You've
that.
never seen it? Yeah.
Yeah.
So there was this fight that broke out in this gymnasium, and they showed the video lasted to like everyone got out of the gymnasium, and on the ground was just towels and the stickers from people's hats. Like, it was hilarious. It looked like it was a joke.
That's hilarious. A big rap battle with towels and stickers. Yeah, remember when they used to wear the tag on their hat,
Yeah.
hanging from their hat like Minnie Pearl from the old Opry?
Oh,
She was the original gangster.
Yeah.
Minnie Pearl
Hilarious.
from the Grand Ole Opry. She always had a tag on her hat, man. I don't know what that was about.
Did you hear about that waitress in New Jersey? That,
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yes, it's a fucking gross story. You know the story
Not yet.
about the lesbian woman? She was working as a waitress in this
Oh, and she got
restaurant.
some nasty note.
Yeah, she got some nasty note that said, "We're not going to leave a tip because we don't agree with your lifestyle."
Right.
Apparently, it's a hoax.
No.
Yes. And
Seriously?
the family started getting shit.
I didn't
so the
hear
family
that.
brought in the actual original receipt. You know how you get a customer copy and a merchant copy? Yeah. Well, the customer copy was the one that she left, but the merchant copy she left blank. You know, sometimes people fuck up and they fill out the wrong one. Well, they had the customer copy. They had a copy of it. They saved it. And the merchant copy, I don't know if somebody photoshopped it. I don't know what the fuck
You
happened.
can reprint these out. So all
Yeah.
she did
Right.
is just reprint it out and then write it on
and
there.
she wrote on it in
shit.
a hoax to try to draw attention to herself.
And people have been sending her money and
Yes,
stuff.
thousands and thousands of dollars that she was going to use, and she was going to send to something else. And I mean, I don't know if who knows. I mean, we're accusing her of hoaxing it, but it might have been something that her staff did. you
Right.
know.
It could have been a hoax on her.
Yes,
Yeah.
no one knows, and so I think it's we shouldn't definitely not accuse someone or say that she did it or that she was a liar, but
Right.
somebody fucking hoaxed it.
What's
Something
interesting is that I don't know if you heard the family said that the
Yes.
only thing they could think of is that the hostess Dana is going to be or Dan's going to be your waiter and will be here in a second. And then when she came up, they go, "Oh, you're definitely not a Dan," or something like that
Right.
because her real name's Dana. And so she kind of might have taken it as, like, oh, they're calling me a guy, and that's why she got mad at these people. Maybe.
Yeah, but that still doesn't
on.
mean that you should hoax that and write a fake. I mean,
so they actually leave her a tip?
Yes, they left her 20% or 18%.
Yeah, credit card statement.
Yeah, they left her like the right amount.
It reminds me, like 5 years ago, I read this story in the International Herald Tribune about a guy. This relates to what we were saying earlier. A rich guy, millionaire, big house, who decided to give it all up and give everything away and live a simple life because that was happy. It would make him happier and this and that, right? So when I started working on Civilized to Death, I had this clipping that I had kept for years. And I Googled the dude to see, what's happened with this guy. Is he still happy or is he get another job? What's going on? Turns out the whole thing was a hoax.
Oh,
that
wow.
he owed a bunch of money, and he figured out that he would get more money if he auctioned his house. So what he did was he said, and he went to a public relations company, and they came up with this whole plan.
Wow.
That he was going to renounce his wealth and all that, but really behind the scenes he had to make money to pay off creditors, whatever it was. And the guy's going around the world still giving talks, charging lots of money to give talks about how wonderful it is to give up all your money. It's all a fucking hoax.
Oh, my God, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. This family, apparently, not only were they not homophobic, they actually wouldn't vote for Governor Christie because he didn't agree with gay marriage. So this family was very progressive.
Right.
So it's like, she fucked, whoever did it fucked up.
They fucked the wrong people.
Well, they just did something gross. They did something gross and fake. But that's the world that we live in, man. Until we figure out how to tell whether or not people are lying, we're going to be dealing with this nonsense for a long time.
Well, she's the one that came out and said, look what these people said, and put it on her Instagram or whatever she did. And
that's actually a good point.
And so that showed the wrong amount on there.
Mm-hmm.
And so they have a credit card statement going, no, this is the right amount. Here is my actual copy receipt. So she had to have done it.
It most likely, unless someone tricked her and took the good bill away and then wrote on the other one a fake signature. Well, you have to find out the signatures match, and then wrote on the one with a fake signature. Find out who the fuck wrote that. They have handwriting experts.
Yeah,
they could tell if it's a woman's writing or a man's writing
or transgender.
Hey, easy, a cabbie could be a cabbie's writing.
Cabbie.
Yeah, I don't know. I think you're gonna have bigots for sure. You're always going to have bigots, but you're also always going to have people that are crying out for attention and pretend they've been a victim of bigotry. You're going to have rape, but you're also going to have false rape accusations too. It's that's one of the reasons why I'm really against gender identity, in the fact that not gender identity, but sticking with your gender, uniformly and prejudicedly, always, I'm on team penis, I think that's ridiculous. I think sticking with your race, just as ridiculous. Sticking with your nationality, equally ridiculous. I've met fantastic people in England. I've met some awesome folks in Canada. It's stupid. It's to categorize people or to I'm a fucking Patriots fan and those Giants could suck it. It's the same thing. You're doing the same thing, and it's dumb, and it's just as dumb on all sides. And until that's resolved, you're going to always have these cloudy situations until it's impossible for someone to rape a woman, which is never going to happen probably until, we figure out. There's a lot of steps before there's no violence and no rape. There's going to be a lot of steps before there's no theft. Probably we're not going to see it in our lifetime, but it's possible, and that's the only way we're going to have real harmony. And I don't know necessarily how much pro-vagina or pro-men's rights groups, I don't know how much those things fucking help anybody. They create dialogue, I guess, but I think they also, they divide in a lot of ways. And they, when people hear the word feminist, they almost automatically think, oh, she fucking hates men, they're just really into women. It creates a rift. When you hear men's rights organization, what do you think? I think misogynists. I think fat, lazy misogynists who women don't like, so they come up with a bunch of reasons why women suck.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily correct on either side.
Sure.
But that's the automatic stereotype that waitress who lied about an anti-gay tip has told far worse lies.
Yeah, she used to tell her friends that she had survived brain cancer, that she did when in Afghanistan, and all her people in her army thing blew up, and she was the only survivor, which she never even toured in Afghanistan. She was kicked out of
pretty
the...
incriminating.
Yeah.
That's not good.
That's too bad.
Let's get off her. I don't
Yeah.
want to fucking dwell on that poor soul.
I agree with what you're saying. I think that the source of all these problems is scale. It gets back to population levels and the size of communities, right? Have you ever heard of Dunbar's number?
Yes.
Yeah. So when you get above Dunbar's number, other people become abstractions, right? It becomes like Stalin, who said
150 people.
right. Stalin said 1 death is a tragedy, 1,000,000 deaths is a statistic, right? And it does become like that. So if you're, like in her case, she might say, well, I wasn't lying to anybody. I didn't know those people, right? People sending me money. They can spare it, and I need it. And, you can make all sorts of excuses because you're not talking directly to the person you fucked.
Right.
Right. Whereas and it's the same thing in the legal system, you get minimum mandatory sentencing, so all these people are going away to fucking prison for 15 years to life for, and the judge is like, this dude's sitting right in front of me. I know I can see this person as an individual. He doesn't deserve this,
right?
But because it's institutionalized, I have to do it. And so I really think that as long as we're living in these massive societies where we're constantly dealing with people we don't know in any personal way, there's always going to be that sense of emptiness and the abuse of trust.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right. I think we have a real hard time dealing with large numbers of people. You get this weird detachment, like I was saying about Jimmy Norton living in this box with 1,000 people that he doesn't know. There's this, and also I wanted to get back to this we were talking about earlier about New York after the Twin Towers.
Yeah,
we filmed Fear Factor in New York, and I think it was 2002 or maybe 2003 at the latest, and it was palpable how friendly people were and what a change it had made and what a sense of community. We had a woman who was with us who may or may not have smoked some of my weed, and she was one of the crew and may or may not have been ready for some of my weed and blacked out and actually fainted on the street, and we had to catch her. Like as we were all sitting around, I'm like, you guys want to get high? Maybe, allegedly I said that. And we went outside, and she literally lost consciousness. So the firemen came, and when the firemen came over, first of all, they could have been more friendly, and they were really nice to her and everything. But the amount of love the firemen were getting from people on the street, like waving to them, honking at them, just yelling, shouting nice things across the street. Somebody yelled something about, I love first responders or something along those lines, and they waved to them, and there was like this feeling of appreciation and camaraderie.
Think about the American soldiers going into France in World War II, the amount of love they were getting.
Oh, yeah, man. Yeah, save us from this fucking horror.
Yeah, I mean, it's real life. Yeah. And that's the thing, man. We can go through an entire lifetime without ever really experiencing real life. We don't see death. I mean, I don't know how many dead bodies you've seen, but, I think my grandmother is the only dead body I ever saw, and I had to kiss her on the fucking lips, which was pretty creepy.
I saw my grandfather.
Yeah.
Same sort of situation.
Do you ever, this mortician, Ask a Mortician, Caitlin Doty? She would be a funny guest for you to meet or just to hang out. She's just like a hip, young, sexy mortician.
Oh.
She's got a show called Ask a Mortician that's like gets hundreds of thousands of hits.
A hip, young, sexy mortician.
Yeah.
Okay, Ask a Mortician. That sounds ridiculous.
Yeah, I had her on my podcast. She was fantastic. She's just fascinated by death, and there she is.
Whoa, she is pretty hot.
She's
hot for a mortician, but still, that's just so weird.
Yeah.
No,
Can't do it.
And her story is cool,
crazy.
Man.
How cool could it really be?
Well, it's really cool because, the thing is we come to these moments in our lives where we have to face death and we get some creepy dude in a bad suit, selling us overpriced. By the way, what's going on with a $12,000 hermetically sealed stainless steel coffin? What the fuck are we saying with that?
Yeah, we're saying we're ripping you off.
Yeah.
Joey Diaz has a good line on that because it's one of his buddies that he went to school with, his family owned a funeral parlor. And they're just pretty open about what a ripoff it is and how they scam you and how they get you in the period where you're in great grief. And they say, you know, wouldn't you like to represent your family in a very beautiful way? And we can offer this fantastic walnut-lined coffin. This is the finest velour interior.
Finest velour.
And you know, these people they don't want to feel bad that they're not taking care of their loved ones, so they spend insane amounts of money. And then there's a scam where even if you want to cremate someone, you still have to embalm the body. So they have to embalm the body, prepare it for preservation.
You know, the embalming, Caitlin and I talked about this. That's American. Nobody else embalms bodies.
Really?
Yeah. This whole like take out the blood, put in toothpaste. That's American. And you know where it came from?
Where?
Civil War.
Really?
Yeah, because they wanted to. So many guys are dying, and their families wanted to bury the body back home on the farm. You know, so the guy dies down in, you know, wherever, Georgia. They have to get the body back to Pennsylvania. It's going to rot, you know, because it's going in a wagon behind a horse or something. So that's when they started the embalming thing so they could get the bodies back home. And it just took off and became an American tradition.
And it became also one of those things where it becomes a part of the system. You know, once something is in the system, it becomes an issue where it's really difficult to change that. It becomes, you know, it's like one of the problems with making drugs illegal. It's like, well, okay, what about all these people that make their living off arresting people for drugs?
Right.
You know, and that's one of the main issues with, as far as lobbying is concerned, is police guard or prison guard unions.
Right.
Prison guard unions spend a lot of money to make sure that certain drugs remain legal or illegal.
And the companies that make these private prisons,
yes.
who, you know, the state has to guarantee them a 98% occupancy rate. So you got to come up with the bodies.
Oh my God, that's so fucking crazy.
A funny example of that is in Spain. Well, funny, but you know, a less tragic, I guess, example. In Spain, they've got an industry of dubbing films and TV shows. So, like, and it's really advanced. So, like, the guy who does Woody Allen always does Woody Allen. So Spanish people associate that voice with Woody Allen. And apparently it's a real art form, right? Whereas in Portugal, subtitles. Everything's been subtitled forever. So there's no tradition of dubbing. There's no dubbing industry in Portugal. So you go to Portugal, everybody speaks English. The guy checking you, you know, taking your money at the gas station speaks English because he grew up watching American programming with Portuguese subtitles, hearing the voices speaking English, right? Just pick it up. In Spain, nobody speaks English. So people like me go there and make a lot of money teaching English because they've got this stupid dubbing system. So they're probably like 3 dozen people make a living doing this. And they're completely fucking the entire country just so they don't lose their jobs, you know?
That's fascinating.
Yeah, hundreds of millions of euros spent, if not billions, on English classes, and it's completely unnecessary. Just get rid of those 30 guys who make a living dubbing.
And everybody will have to learn English.
Yeah.
Or not.
Well, they won't have to learn it because they'll grow up watching it on TV and hearing it.
Wow.
You know? Yeah.
That's wild. Yeah, there's a lot of weird things like that where something becomes a part of the system, and even though it's illogical, it just remains because it's a tradition.
That keyboard right in front of you.
Yeah, QWERTY. Yeah. Folks don't know. Explain that.
Well, the keyboard, the layout of the keyboard, the placement of the letters is the way it is because of frequency of use, and so they tried to space the letters out so that you wouldn't hit two letters that were next to each other where the arm came up on the typewriter so that the arms would tangle. So they tried to make it so that the arms that came up would be spaced out, so they laid out the keyboard that way. So it's a very inefficient way to have a keyboard because it's based upon the demands of a machine that no longer exists. It's not based upon ease of use.
Right.
Which, I mean, really, that's a metaphor for society in general, is what I've been saying the whole time, you know? Like, the interests of the corporation, the interests of these institutions supersede the interest of the person. So people always say to me when I get into these arguments about human nature, like, yeah, but we're people, we can decide, you know, we can free will, and yada, yada, yada. But, you know, you do want a shoe that's more or less shaped like a foot. Right? If your shoe strays too far from the shape of a foot, you're fucked.
Right.
Yeah. And so the keyboard's a good example of that.
Have they made one that's like,
Yes.
this would be the...
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There's a much more efficient key layout, but the problem is you would have to, first of all, you'd have to change your key. You'd have to bring it to a place and get it done. Or you get if you have an actual external keyboard, you can get it and learn it. But it's really weird.
And you'd have to relearn.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. So there's this vested
Yeah,
interest.
this is like, I can type pretty goddamn fast, and I don't have to look at it.
Yeah.
I could just do it like where I'm talking to you. As long as I feel those little nubs on the F and the J, I'm good to go.
Yeah.
But I know where the system is. I know where everything is.
Yeah.
Apparently, though, it's not the best way. And the other way is like statistically quite a bit faster.
It's like Esperanto.
What's that?
Esperanto is this like an artificial language that was invented, I think, late 19th century.
Not Ebonics.
Do you know that on my resume, I have
That you speak
Ebonics to English translator.
That's a good move.
I have been paid.
Really?
I have been paid to translate from Ebonics to English.
So you're like that lady on the movie Airplane.
I
speak jive.
Exactly. This friend of mine was...
How much did you get paid for that?
I got paid pretty... I mean, whatever. It was back when I was teaching English in Spain. I was living in Barcelona. This friend of mine a Spanish woman, was a translator for an independent film festival that they have every year in Barcelona called In Edit. And so she calls me up and she says... Hey, Chris, do you understand black people? And I thought she meant conceptually, you know. Like, I was like, yeah, definitely. Whatever. As much as I understand anyway. And she's like, no, the way they talk. Like, oh, yeah, whatever. So the story was that year, the films were all about the original bebop guys, the origins of hip-hop in Brooklyn in the 70s, I guess, and Delta bluesmen. And so these Spanish translators who spoke English very, very well would listen to these dudes, and they couldn't understand what they were saying. So they had me come down. First they had called a black guy, but he was British, and he didn't understand them, right? So then they're like, well, I know a white guy, but he's American. So my job was to go down, sit there next to a translator, watch this DVD with the pause thing, and just, pause. And the dude would be like, yeah, we're up in my crib. And it's like, stop. That means they went back to his apartment. Like, continue. I didn't even have to translate it into Spanish. I also was the in-house editor and translator for the biggest porn company in the world.
Whoa.
Private, yeah.
In-house translator?
And editor, yeah.
So you had to translate American porn to Spanish?
Again, what I pretty much did in that job was translate from bad English to better English, because they had someone else who would do the rough translation, and then they'd email me the documents, and I just had to go through and clean it up. And there are funny things, like, for example, in German, tail, the word tail refers to penis. So I remember one of the first ones I was translating, it was like for some hardcore porn mag, and there were two dudes
wagging their tails.
Yeah, and one of the dudes, or the woman, looked at the dudes and was like, "Oh, you guys have nice tails, or nice tail." And I was like, "Whoa, wait a minute! In English, tails,
Right.
the woman, it's completely different." But anyway, that was a weird gig. That was the gig that, strangely enough, led me to meet Paulo Coelho, the Brazilian writer. You know him?
No.
He wrote The Alchemist, like the
I've heard of that.
best-selling book in the history of humanity.
What is The Alchemist about?
The Alchemist is this is a story about the prodigal son. It's what Joseph Campbell called the hero with 1,000 faces, right? It's a guy born in southern Spain, goes on a quest, goes through northern Africa, meets all these characters, and they give him challenges and tests and things, and then he goes through the tests and he goes back home and he finds the treasure he was looking for all the time, right? The Odyssey. It's the same story. It's not a good book. I'm not recommending it. It just sold more books than any book since the Bible.
Really?
Yeah, it's a huge bestseller.
Wow.
Paulo Coelho is an industry. Like, you go to a bookstore, there will be a Paulo Coelho stand with...
But they're not good books.
It's new age bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
It takes the oldest story in the world, retells it, and calls it new,
People
and
love new
makes
age
a lot of
bullshit,
money.
though, don't they?
They do.
There's the knowing that something's wrong and searching for an answer and finding one that has the most mystical qualities attached to it. That's new age bullshit, isn't it?
It is. Do you know Jamie Ian Swiss, the magician?
No.
I was interviewing him. He's like the world's most famous close-up magician. He'll do shit in front of you on a table that will blow your fucking mind. Anyway, he said smart people are the easiest to trick.
Really?
Yeah, because their attention is predictable. You know where they're going to look. You can pull their attention where you want. They're well trained. Kids are really tough because kids will look where they're not supposed to look.
Right.
And he said he hates doing magic for new agers because they already believe in all this bullshit. So it's like, you already believe that crystal's going to save you. Then, what I do isn't really going to impress you. You know?
It's like selling fake real estate to mentally handicapped people.
Yeah, there's no challenge.
What are you doing here? It's not a scam. It's like what Bernie Madoff did. That's a goddamn scam. It's a very sophisticated scam, and probably there's a lot of satisfaction in tricking all these really smart people to give you your money.
Yeah, but it's also very simple, right? You just lure them in with more money.
More money.
You know what works for them.
Even though people were looking at the numbers going, this doesn't even make any sense. Like, where's this money coming from? Like, this doesn't make any sense.
You can't do that trick on someone who's not greedy.
It's true, right? Yeah. Someone who's frugal and smart and conservative, they go like, this does not seem like it makes sense. Ooh, I'm going to get out.
I don't need it.
But Spielberg's like, listen, I'm telling you, the guy's giving me 20% on my investment.
Yeah.
So many people lost money with that guy, too. Like, big people. Lots of fucking money.
Lots of money.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was working in the 80s after Alaska. I went there 2 years, and then I got this job in the Diamond
You lived
District.
there for 2 whole years?
Well, 2 summers. I worked in a cannery the first year and on a boat the
Fish
second
cannery?
year. Salmon, yeah.
What do they do? How do they do that? They boil the fish and then just chop them into cubes?
Oh no, man! It was very intense. I worked in Kenai Packers. Still remember them. Respect. And I lived in my tent up on the bluff.
You lived in a tent?
Yeah, all summer.
You like an individual tent? Like a small tent? Or like a big tent where a bunch of people are living in?
No, it was just my tent.
Not like a circus.
No, it was a 3-man geodesic dome tent, and at one point we got 8 people in there having a party. Yeah, that was pretty fun in the rain. We all had to sit with our legs over each other, in a circle, and we're passing the wine and the joints around in the circle.
Oh wow!
And
playing footsies.
That was the first time I ever saw anyone light a fart. That was a historic moment in my life.
I've never seen that. I saw it in a video online.
Want me to show you?
Nope.
It eliminates the stink.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kills the methane, right?
Yeah. And so I was living there. So the way it works is the fish come in, and you can get jobs because when the fish come in, they have to process them like fast because they're rotting, right? So the fish come in. They go through this. They come off the boats. They go through this machine, this big clanking, machine that they call the chink. And I thought it was called the chink because it ching. And one day I asked one of the foremen, and he said, "Oh no, it's called the chink because Chinese used to do that job." And the job was to rip off the head and get as much of the guts as possible. So then the fish go onto these conveyor belts, and they come down the slime line. And that's where I was. I was a slime monkey the first year. So you stand there. It's piping, cold water spraying on a cutting board. You're wearing rain gear, earplugs because it's so loud. You got a knife in your hand, gloves, and you're just gutting the fish all day. You're getting what the chink missed. Sometimes it missed everything, so you have to take off the head, the fins, get the guts, get the bloodline off the spine and the back, and then you put all that guts, all that stuff into a chute, which I later learned goes into tanks that are sold to pharmaceutical companies because the fat from the internal organs and the head of the salmon is the base for a lot of cosmetics.
Whoa.
And then the fish, assuming the fish is in decent condition, goes onto another conveyor belt, and then it goes down into the canning section where it's chopped and placed in these cans. So it's just chopped right through.
Dude, you have lived some really crazy adventures. You've had a pretty wild and broad life.
Well, that was the point, right? When I was 20, I was like, fuck it, I'm going to die someday.
But it's so romantic that you actually engineered that. A lot of people don't, they say that maybe they have a rich, crazy life, but it's because they were an alcoholic and they were running from the law. But with you, you made a conscious decision to have this adventure.
Yeah, it was definitely intentional. And it helped that I didn't want to have kids, right? So that removed that whole area of problem for me. And it also helped that my parents were sort of upper middle class and really good people. And they were like, the only thing my dad said when that first year in Alaska, I called, I said, look, I'm going to Japan. I'm just like, forget college. I'm alive. Also about the time I discovered acid, by the way, which helped.
I wonder, connection maybe?
And my dad was like, look, Chris, I'll support you in anything you do, but please, for me, go back to school, finish, get your degree, because it's going to be so hard to go back later. So for my dad, and really to this day, that's like the only thing he's ever stepped in and said, please trust me on this. I went back to school, but I said, I'm not going to live in the dorms. I'm not, because I went to this school full of rich, spoiled assholes. I mean, George Bush's niece was in my class. The heir to the Spalding fortune was in my class. So I lived in my tent in the woods behind the art museum.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Dude, I love talking to you, man. It's so much fun. We're out of time, but we could do this all day. Every
Yeah,
day. We
yeah,
could do
it's
this
fun.
like 100 times a year.
You got a gig tonight, right?
Yes. We're at the Ice House. It's sold out, though, so go fuck yourselves, folks. If you're trying to buy a ticket, too late. Tough shit. You snooze, you lose.
I was going to ask for one.
You could get in.
I
Get
could
you in.
get-
Come on, son.
You sit
You're
on my
in.
lap.
Come on.
Get some rose petals.
Listen, he's going to look at you like you looked at that nipple on the
Some
plane.
rose petals.
Feed each other rose petals. all day.
Yeah.
And think about breastfeeding on planes. Let's do this again, man.
Yeah,
Let's
anytime.
Bring Duncan in here. I was trying to. Well, Duncan. Who knows? We'll talk about that off the air.
Yeah. That would be great. Duncan, Daniele, the whole crew.
Yeah. Daniele Bolelli came on. We've been doing that more lately, having like a couple people on. Like we had Brian Callen and Tom Rhodes on last week. I had Dan Carlin and Daniele Bolelli. That was really fun. So we'll do this again.
Yeah.
Always a pleasure. my
Anytime.
friend. Always a pleasure.
I really enjoy
Sex
it.
at Dawn. Please buy it. Go buy it. It's a fucking fantastic book. And if you're thinking about breaking up with your relationship, it'll push you over the edge. I'll tell you that. It'll give you that extra push you might need if you're in a bad one to be free and to go fucking with no underwear in Alaska. Whoa. Hey! We will see you tonight if you want to come down. Tonight is Red Band, Matt Fultron, Sam Tripoli, Brian Callen, Dom Herrera, and me. We're going to have a hell of a show. It was supposed to be Greg Fitzsimmons, but unfortunately he has to pick up his mom at the airport. But Greg will be here on the podcast this Friday. So we should have a good time as well. And Greg has a new special out that I listened to on the way home from the Irvine Improv a couple of months ago, and it's really fucking funny. Really good stuff. So we will see you soon, my friends. Mad love to all of you. Thanks to Carbonite for sponsoring the podcast. Go to carbonite.com. Type in the offer code JRE for a free trial. Thanks also to Ting. Go to rogan.ting.com and save yourself some money on an awesome company, a company that really does have an ethical solution to all your cell phone needs. Thanks also to onnit.com. Go to ONNIT. Use the code name Rogan and save yourself some money. But this Friday we have an even better deal. This is Black Friday, and shit's going to get crazy. Save massive amounts of money, 25% off supplements, 15% off foods, 10% off fitness packages, plus an additional 5% off orders over $150 or 10% off orders over $250. So for big orders, that's like 35% off supplements and 20% off fitness. It's very powerful. And that's it. You got something going on?
Yeah, this weekend I'll be with Joey Diaz in San Diego at the American Comedy Coast Saturday. I'm going to be at his show, but he has shows Friday and Saturday. And then December 11th, I'll be in San Jose Improv at the Comedy Palace with Brody Stevens and Sam Tripoli and probably a bunch of other comics there.
Good googly moogly. You can't miss it. December 13th, I'm at the Crest Theater in Sacramento with the lovely twink Tony Hinchcliffe. And then on the 27th, I'm at the Mirage Hotel in Las Vegas, Nevada with Joey Diaz and Brian Callen. Shit shall be crazy. All right, we love the fuck out of you people, and we will see you soon. Keep it together, bitches. We're all in this as one. Big kiss. Mwah.